Are recording.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to the June 9th, 2022 ARB meeting of Architectural Review Board of the Town of East Hampton. My name is Kathleen Cunningham. I'm the chair. Welcome to everyone and thanks to all our staff and LTV for getting us up and running and keeping things going smoothly. Okay, the first item of business is to, I need a motion to approve the minutes of May 26, 2022.
So move.
May I have a second, please? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're passed and carried. All right, our first application is a change to commercial 717 Montauk Highway, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-3-31, care of Mike DePaula. Is Mr. DePaula or a representative for, is that you, sir? Oh, hi, Gunnar. Maybe you want to come up to the podium in case we have any questions for you. Okay. This is my application. And this is for a restoration project. Actually, they're just trying to paint the building. I have a paint chip here for you guys for the board to examine. Do we have the survey up or are we close to getting that? It was an old garage. It's on the corner of South Embassy and Montauk Highway in Montauk, just on the kind of on the western end of the village. It looks like a lot of work is being proposed. I think it used to be Frank's garage. Am I right about that? The Montauk, who? Phil, thanks. Well, I was close with the sound. Joe. Anyway, Joe's garage. Anyhow, so I went to I took a look at, I went out to look at the application on Tuesday and I took a bunch of pictures. The paint would be welcome. I have no particular problem with this paint color. But I do have some questions about whether this might require site plan because of the, I mean, anything would be an improvement. It's in quite a dilapidated condition. So we thank you for doing that. I understand your plan is to open a gallery there. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds great. The thing I'm just concerned about, and that's not our purview specifically, but is the parking. You are one of the few properties in Montauk that actually has space on the land for parking. And I'm just wondering how that's going to work. That isn't something that we would govern for you, but you should probably go to the planning board to get that figured out. The other thing that we have purview over that I wanted to mention to you while I have you here, because it'll prohibit you getting a certificate of occupancy, is the fencing that you've installed. There's a couple of pictures of that. If you could scroll to the fencing, please, Will. That's the parking area, basically. I mean, it's got a big, there's the parking. Okay, so here's the thing with the fence. When you install fencing, the finished side is supposed to be on front the neighboring, not for you. It's for the people who are looking at it, not for the homeowner or the business owner. So you're going to have to flip that around to make it, because you would have to come before us for a fence.
Okay.
Anyhow. Now, what I'd like to do, because I think it makes sense, is because we have all these applications, we have all these separate fees, and it seems a little burdensome. I'd like to be able to recommend that we approve this paint color, but also ask you to make amendments to the fence, adjustments to the fence, so we can get that all done at the same time instead of you having to come in and make another application for a fence. You know, it's another fee and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if I'm in a position to say, I don't know if we waive the fee or what we do, but I would like to just consolidate this if we can. David, is that an okay thing for me to do?
Yeah, unless the planning department strongly objects to us combining it, I don't have an issue with
What do
it.
you think, Will?
We think there's a precedent for it. So
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you
Eric
have
and I
that.
talked about it. He seems to remember we did it before.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense and there's no reason to just, so if you could just do that, that would be great. And then please consult the planning department on whether you have a need for site plan for your parking and circulation, because there's only that one entryway there. And it goes off onto that street where I know there's public parking down there, but I don't know how you're going to use that
Right.
part of the property. Or if you're not going to use it for parking, like I said, that's not our purview,
Mhm.
but before you get into trouble with it, I think I would recommend that you call the planning department and see if you require site plan for that.
Would that, so I guess that's a question for the planning board, whether that needs a site
Yes.
plan approval.
Yes.
I have a proposed site plan that I was planning to submit along with the building permit
Great.
application.
Great, then please do that.
Okay.
And then the planning board will review that and give you recommendations on how this parking and circulation might work. It's a very unusually shaped lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's got a narrow entrance.
Yeah.
And a wide area for, so, you know, how
Mhm.
it's going to, the circulation within that is going to be a little problematic, I think. But that, again, that's not our purview.
Mhm.
I only happen to know this because I served on the planning board for a while. But I just want to be clear to you and to the planning board that this approval, we're approving the painting of the building and the remedying the problems that you have with the fence, but no other part of this. So if
Right.
they have recommendations for you that, you know, override these recommendations, then I want to be clear to you that they're the governing power in that instance for the site plans.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm. Understood. Yep.
All right. Does any other member of the
Well,
board have a
Kathy,
question?
instead of flipping the fence, you could just double side it, and put another fence on the other side of the 4x4 post.
Mhm.
Might be easier.
That's a good suggestion.
Mhm.
However you want to do it, so the outside is the nicer piece.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Mhm.
would look nice. I mean, I think Chip has a good point. It's
Yeah.
sort of a public area anyway, so it
Yeah.
might be
kind
nice
of
to
a
just
two-sided, yeah.
line it on both sides, but that's your choice. Anybody else have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
I just wonder, is this the scope? Like, is there going to be more work on the building,
There's very minimal kind of interior painting and that kind
but
of.
nothing on the exterior?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Because the only other thing we would ask you to come before us with is if you were going to put any exterior lighting on it or change any of the fixtures that are on the exterior now, you would need approval from this board for that
Mhm.
And signage.
and signage.
Signage. Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
to you. Sure. Okay. Next.
Motion.
Yeah.
approved?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to accept this application as proposed and include approval of the fence on the condition that it is the present configuration is remedied to be code compatible. You have a second?
Second.
Does somebody want to change that?
I think that's good.
You good with that? Okay, all right. Good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, you're good to go. Okay, Astro's Pizza, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-171-2-5. Britton, this is Britton's application. I thought I saw her walking
she is,
in.
right
Here
here.
she is. Hi, Britton. Okay, so I just want to what is the name of that woman again? I don't have that email, hasn't come up on my phone. I just wanted to indicate to the public that a letter was submitted. Jane
Yes, as far as I know.
Mearing, MEHRING. Okay, sent a letter to the Architectural Review Board that we've read. We do take public comment in writing for applications that come before the board. So I just want that to be noted. Okay, Diane, this is your application.
Yes. Well, since we last met, Astro Pizza has taken many of our concerns to heart and have changed the color red to a much more subdued historic color. They have agreed to not paint out the window frames. I think the issues and the awning size is the awning size, but in this letter, it says that will be match the same as Il Buco. And I think that if it matches the same depth as Il Buco, that would be fine. Now, the two things that are still, I think, contentious are the striped awning, because it's a very wide building. And I think the only other striped awning is on Rosie's, which is a much smaller awning
We've approved
that we have approved, right?
and it was existing.
And it was existing. Okay, so the striped awning is questionable. And the thing that I find most questionable is the whitewashing of the brick. And if you could show the pictures I sent in, there are in fact other buildings that are whitewashed,
Mhm.
you know, the record store and, but they're, number one, they look like they're fading. The whitewash is fading
Mhm.
and they are far less attractive than the brick facades. I feel. So there, and there's Rosie's striped awning. But you see how it seems to be fading out? And that's the liquor store in between, which is, you know, natural brick. I think the natural brick is much more in keeping. And I have a feeling that those whitewash brick people wish theirs would wash right off. But anyway, so I think they're the two things that I have issue with. You said, Britt, you said in the last meeting that that the concrete slab on to the east of the building was not to be used or was not, but I did notice that it has been renewed, this concrete slab, which is flat against the building. So I don't know whose project that is.
If you look at the survey, that I submitted for your file, it's very obvious that that's not on my client's property. It's owned by the neighbor adjacent, the Ranas, and they received a building permit to rebuild that patio and to use that as a common area for their tenants. That is not to be used by this restaurant.
Okay.
So Astros is not using.
We didn't
that
buy that
at-
furniture. They can't sit on that furniture.
Are they
It's not on
using
our
that
property.
for
They are
outdoor
not.
dining?
They can't. They have no right
So,
to.
A couple of things, like in looking at the building permits that were issued for that project, they were replacing kind. And it looked like that it was not replacing kind because they went out to a greater width to the,
You're talking about the concrete slab
yes,
that the neighbor just built.
well, then I talked to Ann Glennon and Ann Glennon says that she remembers like that Astros has always historically used those tables on the side with Rena's permission.
Correct.
So,
That permission was not renewed when the property was sold. And the Ranas, I didn't represent the Ranas. I just know that that's not on our property and we didn't undertake that work and we're not allowed to sit in those chairs.
is
So
that-
it shouldn't really be under review. It's not our property.
I know, but
all
it
they have
certainly
is a-
seems like that it's being used by
not.
Astros.
It's being used by the
There's
tenants.
chairs up here.
So I'm sorry, who is responsible for the chairs?
The Rana family, I don't know what LLC or entity it's in. They own what used to be Body Tech. I don't know what it is now. The grain surfboards and something else on the second floor and the other white building.
Okay.
That lawn area and that patio is part of their property and is their tenant common area, which they just did. They did improvements here and they also did another patio adjacent to what used to be Body Tech under a building permit. If they did the building permit wrong, I didn't represent them. I can't
Yeah.
say anything, but the only
Your
thing
issue.
that my client is allowed to do is there's a door right there and we have a 4-foot wide right of way to access that door.
Oh.
That's it.
That's not shown on the survey though, right?
It's a private easement
Oh, okay.
between the two. They used to have an easement to use the patio. The previous owner and the neighbors used to have an easement that they allowed them to dine on this patio. That easement was extinguished at the sale. And the only easement we have is that we are allowed to use to enter through that door. Right of way.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll accept your representation, but the town is going to look into
They
that and consider, the possibility that they might be using this for outdoor dining, which,
They would love to. So,
well, I think whoever is doing it needs
and
to-
they're allowed, I mean, if there was a private agreement between the two, and if my client went to the town and got an outdoor dining permit, it would be within their rights.
Your client hasn't applied for an outdoor dining permit.
I'm not
I checked,
handling
he
that.
hasn't, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
And
Well, I think part of that will be whether we have an on. I mean, we're in the process of,
But so the outdoor dining that you said would be in the front on Main Street?
I don't think there's no outdoor dining proposed with this application. If there's cafe tables like there are outside of Il Buco, and if someone goes in and buys a slice of pizza, they can sit there like they can sit on a park bench. There's 3 chairs, I think, outside, but the intent probably, I think my client's intent is to get an outdoor dining permit. Their intent was to get an outdoor dining permit here. The lawyers are handling that. I'm not.
Well, I'm curious, where would they For the front or for the side?
I don't know. I don't want to tell you something. I don't know.
Okay, well, do you have something? you want to
I think the things that are under our purview are the awning
add? Right.
and the whitewashing of the brick.
If I may approach.
That's right.
I don't know.
It's the same.
Guess
I have
it's
the
the
same
same,
one.
right?
It's the same. Black and white.
This is what the client wants. I said previously that Gordon's had a stripe awning. Of the awnings on the north side of Main Street, which I walked and cataloged, there are more striped awnings than non-striped awnings. Organic Crush has a striped awning, which this board approved. Rosie's.
We did not find a resolution for that.
For organic.
Okay, so they have an illegal striped awning?
I don't recall having reviewed that, but you looked for a resolution.
And I think the last approval was for Mary's Marvelous, right?
Right.
So was this Mary's Marvelous awning?
No, the Mary's Marvelous approval did not include that awning, if I'm correctly recalling. But I had a question too. Those awnings on the north side of the street, are any of the other ones the whole length of the building? They go because this one appears to extend east and also west. You know, if that's the property line, that's the side of the building. In this rendering, it goes out into the,
It doesn't exceed it might be just the rendering. It has to fasten back straight onto the building and not exceed, doesn't go wider than the building.
I think that's just perspective.
All right. But
And if you want to.
no, I'm just asking because I noticed that the other ones are, only partially across the facade and this one is the whole facade.
Il Buco is the whole facade,
Is it?
right next
I
door.
think so. I think she's
Yeah.
right.
I just
So-
cataloged each one.
Yeah, but okay.
So can you walk into Astro and buy a slice of pizza and then take it outside on the sidewalk? I walked by last night. It wasn't clear you could do that. Can you do that?
I believe so. I didn't know they sell slices.
What would stop you from at night walking around the corner and sitting there eating your pizza?
Nothing. Like a part, she said it would be like sitting on a.
I don't think it's
street
going to
bench.
keep up neighborly relations when they're not allowed to. And they're supposed to instruct their patrons that they're not allowed to. And that is seating areas for the tenants of the common area.
But they're probably not there at night. They're not night businesses. They're gyms and stuff. So I don't know.
So, see, all right. Well, so here's the thing. I think we don't, as a practical matter, that patio may or may not be used. It doesn't belong to the applicant. So I don't know if this is another, like,
Except for the easement that they have across it apparently.
exactly where I was going, except for the easement they have to access their side door there, which I think would be useful for us to have in the file at the very least. One of the concerns that I had, and I think, Britton, that your submission and my letter to you crossed because I asked for some dimensions of, how, what the clearance of the awning was from the sidewalk to the lowest, to the lower point, because it
I
does
didn't
extend out 6 feet. I just want to make sure people can walk under it without, because it's in the right of way, right? So,
Well, it totally covers it totally covers the sidewalk because I think the sidewalk is only like 5 feet.
well,
I sent him an
we need
email.
those-
The sidewalk is 9'2".
Okay,
and
well,
the awning-
we asked for we asked for those dimensions.
I didn't receive a letter from you, so I
didn't get-
can't respond to something I didn't receive.
So pardon me,
send that
hold on.
letter?
The sidewalk, the concrete part of the sidewalk.
We
is-
finished it. It just didn't go out.
So I didn't know about it.
Okay.
The
Well,
concrete
that's
part of the
inconvenient.
sidewalk is 9 feet,
Yes.
or that includes the brick? Because that does not look like 9 feet. Oh my gosh.
I have a photograph of it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I believe you. I believe that it's 9 feet. I get it.
Thank you.
So that provides 3 feet to the south of the awning for people to walk, right? The clearance.
The awning is
9
10
feet.
feet above the ground. So unless,
Okay, well, that's news to me too. So that's good to know. 10 feet above the ground is helpful.
Well, it says here 84 inches above pavement, at least that's what I'm looking at. Page 2 of the rendering. That's the bottom of the awning.
I think the issue here is stripes.
I think the width actually also.
Well,
I find
it's the right of way. I mean, we can't crowd the right of way. So
I don't think that awning, the widths of the stripes are the same as this sample. That looks like a much narrower, busier awning, the narrower stripes.
That's the specification of the awning that you have right there. That's the umbrella
maybe just
fabric.
because it's
Right,
long.
so then the
so-
rendering may not be accurate.
Well,
They look like much, 2 or 3 inches. These are
Narrower,
probably
right?
5 inches.
Yeah.
I don't see these dimensions here for the,
And I wonder what happened to the pizza sign. It seems to be gone.
It's very old. It's coming back.
So is the sidewalk in front of Il Buco the same dimension?
Correct.
Mhm.
Consistent all the way down the north side of Main Street.
okay, well, to my mind, if these dimensions are correct, if the awning is 10 feet above the sidewalk and it only extends 6 feet out into the sidewalk and the sidewalk is 9.5 inches or whatever the measurement is, I don't have any problem with that. I think so that relieves my mind of obstructions for pedestrians. But I don't think that I think the whitewashing, especially for that cluster of buildings, when we look at the historic nature of some of these things, these buildings, these businesses in these smaller hamlets, some of these buildings have been built, over time. This is clearly one of the newer ones. It's not as old as Miss Amelia's cottage, for instance. It's been there a while, but it's in a cluster of buildings that does share this red brick quality for the first story of the building. And while I recognize that there are stripes on orange, whatever the crush place is called, I just don't think that the stripes are in keeping with what we're looking for. So I think that the whitewashing and yeah, there we go. Could you leave the solid awning up, please? I think that
I
looks
think
just
it's so
fine.
much more attractive.
I think it does look more elegant.
Do we have a rendering of what?
Could
it
I
looks
just,
like with the
at
red brick?
some point, we have to identify that the client came in with a whitewash with a striped awning that was a different color, painting the windows, painting the vent, painting all the trim on the second floor. And the board gave us a lot of commentary at the last meeting. We went back, we took out the trim boards on the side. We took out painting the windows. We took out painting the flood vent, attic vent. We've done a lot of changes, and it would be nice to get one of their requests met, other than the gold sign, because they really would like a striped awning, and maybe we don't paint the brick, but we provided a white paint, we provided a whitewash paint, we provided a lot of options, and we'd like to just have something that was their first choice.
Right, I understand that, but with all due respect, and you represent your client well, and I'll hire you if I ever have to do this, but it's not our responsibility to meet the desires of the client. It's our responsibility to enforce the code and the standards of the Main Street Historic District in and against it. And the striped awning and the whitewashed brick does not fit that criteria. I prefer it. I like the way it looks. I would prefer the whitewash, but that's not my job I don't get to make that standard. The standard exists. The standard
But
that
there's-
exists is a red brick building, and the whitewash is just not.
But all the modern red brick buildings are whitewashed on Main Street, and I gave
No,
three.
no,
They're not.
no.
The
At
least half of them
I
are.
would beg to differ.
Hampton Nails,
and-
Rosie's.
Right, and
So we'll give up the whitewash,
it
but can
may
we
well
have
be,
ones
it
in the
may well be,
immediate
but
nest
this isn't a
block?
quid pro quo. You don't get to bargain with us like that. I'm sorry, but you don't get to do that. This is not how it works. It's not a bargaining session. We're telling you what the code is.
But this
We're
is not in
asking
the
you to do
code.
it.
Let me read the code. I think that'd be helpful. It says,
Okay.
Non-historic buildings and new construction. These guidelines apply to alteration or redevelopment of non-historic building and to new construction. Buildings constructed after 1950 are classified as non-historic buildings. The alteration or redevelopment of non-historic buildings could have a significant impact on the character of the historic district. New commercial buildings may also be constructed. Existing features of non-historic buildings that are compatible with the historic district should be maintained. Alterations, redevelopment, and new construction should be compatible with the historic commercial buildings and with the character of the historic district in general.
The problem with that, David, is this building was constructed prior to 1950, so it doesn't.
So
fall.
then it's would fall into it's still a non-historic building. It's not one of the ones that's specifically mentioned and called out in the code in the
Right, it's not
historic
named.
district. So, the codes for the historic buildings, historic commercial buildings are even more restrictive than what I just read to you. But the overall goal is to increase compatibility with the neighboring historic commercial and residential buildings. And the code considers this area, specifically where the library is, which is in close proximity, as the most built up section of the business district and a critical component of the historic district. It says special emphasis should be to maintain the open setting between the facade of that building and the street. So I think that the board is within their jurisdiction to question the width of it and how far out of the sidewalk it goes.
And about the whitewashing, directly to the west is Il Buco and the Il Buco other store, which are all natural brick. And the building to the east is shingle, so it doesn't. But I think that I really think that leaving the brick natural is important.
Well, let me just confirm. So you said that if it's built after 1950, and whether or not we approve it, we can consider it to be painted or whitewashed. Is that correct? What is the age of this building?
Let me look at the property card.
Property card is just so the building permit in 1960. It predates zoning. It's pre-1955. I think it's probably from the 30s, but
Okay. I was going to say, I mean, to me, that's the letter says if it's after 1950, we could consider it. I mean, I also personally would prefer I don't mind the whitewash. To me, it's a question of, will it impact the character of the neighborhood and is it compatible? I actually do think it is, but if it's, if it's pre-1950 and we can't touch it, then is that the rule?
Let me confirm. I don't know.
The code's conflicting because it says pre-1950 and then it doesn't, it says it segments out historic versus non-historic buildings, and this is not historic.
Okay.
So I think it was intended to be non-historic.
It's just a building that's in the historic district.
Okay, so it's not a
It's in the
historic
central
property.
commercial district.
So I just wanted to be stated then, we can consider it. Doesn't mean we have to approve it, but we can consider it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
think that's correct.
If the board is inclined, it could approve the whitewash of
Okay.
brick if you felt that it was in keeping
Right.
with the character of the historic district.
Right.
And just to be clear, we do have two options. That's not whitewash. That's white. The whitewash is the other side. So whitewash is a pickled look and white is white.
All right, well, then someone should make a
Yes.
motion.
Do you know if since 1930 or whenever the building was constructed, has it always been a brick facade?
I can only speak tonight since 1978. It's
I mean, I do not have a problem with whitewashing the brick.
I don't either.
I don't think it, I understand.
I-
I mean, I think that there's sometimes the renderings can be misleading. And to me, the rendering here, it's a tough one, because we don't have a sample of a whitewashed brick or a swatch, but the rendering is a little sort of cream color. But I think if you looked at photographs of whitewashed brick on Main Street in Amagansett, they wouldn't seem it's also rendered rather uniform. So again, that's kind of the danger of renderings. They're useful, but sometimes they can be, I feel like it can be a little misleading. But again, I don't object to a light whitewash of the brick.
But they're direct next door neighbors, Il Buco. They've really spiffed up those buildings, and they're natural brick. And this is already natural brick, and they have a sort of harmony. And I think, why, I don't know why it's sort of.
I'm not sure how compatible they are. It's hard because I don't have a photograph of Il Buco in front of me, but
I
just sort of
think
think-
there's some photographs, Will.
architecturally, I do think there's something, I hate to use this word, there's something a little kind of drab about the existing red brick. And I can understand the owner's desire to want to lighten it up.
So
And I think the solid awning is also a little drab. I mean, this is a This is not the awning you're showing us in the rendering. This is a very different awning. The stripes are wider. And the nice thing about this awning is the white lets an incredible amount of light through. The darkness of a solid awning, I think, is sort of
That's the building as it
is
is.
drab. Yeah. I mean, I think you want to look summery and bright and cheerful, and this awning does that.
Oh, so you support the striped
I
awning?
do. I have the
Ah.
same stripe awning. It's a great awning.
Oh, yes, but you live in a house.
Yeah, but I took it from a commercial structure.
I think
This
striped.
is a
striped
typical,
awning.
I use the iconograph. This is a typical Italian, same thing with the green door. This says when you drive down the street and you came from California, that you get pizza here.
The
I don't know if that
striped
was
awning.
Category.
But the brick,
The brick rendering really doesn't show, I mean, the screen, it's not a good scan. I mean, it looks 1,000 times better on my computer screen than it does. I agree. The rendering's tough.
well, I just want to throw out there that in the code, and I agree with Diane, I'd prefer that it remain in the natural brick, but it does say under awnings, there's a second, number 3, paint. Consistency in exterior finishes can enhance the compatibility between commercial and residential buildings and between recent commercial buildings and historic commercial buildings. Like the historic houses, either natural wood shingles or a white painted exterior predominate among the historic commercial buildings. So I'm just throwing
Right,
that out
except
there.
for the ones that have brick.
Exactly.
So,
Saying,
Why don't we pull the board?
I will-
and move on?
you know,
Point out, the code does say that more recently, commercial development has been concentrated on the north side of Main Street in the vicinity of the town parking lot. The compatibility of this row of commercial buildings with other areas of Main Street is a critical factor in maintaining the integrity of the historic district. And the guidelines for redevelopment of non-historic buildings are to increase compatibility with neighboring historic, commercial, and residential buildings with the character of the historic district in general.
all right. So I
Just
just,
to point, there is the alleyway that cuts between Indian Wells Tavern or whatever it's called now, and the back parking lot is actually all painted white brick. That's the alleyways
Yeah.
and the building facade.
We approve that.
okay. So,
I don't object to the, I don't
all
necessarily.
right, well,
object
let's
to the
let's
stripe.
parse this out. So how many people favor the brick whitewash? Frank and Chip. How many people favor the solid awning as in dimensions submitted, which is to cover the entire facade?
I think the width is a bit. the
Okay,
6 feet
so
is-
let's, how many people want to see the awning narrowed, be less
Can I just
wide?
be clear, width, is this?
No, width
is a
of depth then.
Then depth, that's depth. I'm talking about how, that it covers the entire front of the building, because that was a question some people had. Is that
That's depth.
acceptable?
Right?
That's width.
Width of the building.
Width of the building, depth is
Okay.
6
Being
feet.
clear about what we're talking about.
Yes, I know, it's been confusing. Width of the building. Now, how wide is
The
this?
entire facade.
Correct. And are people good with that? That dimension?
Yes.
I think
Full
that's
width, yeah.
fine.
That's, yeah.
So that's good. Okay. So then the depth of it is 6 feet. I mean, I don't, if it's 10 feet up in the air.
Which is
Okay.
the same as the neighbor. So if you make it a different
It's-
dimension.
Yes, I'm just trying to pull the board, Britain. 6 feet depth of the awning. Are people okay with that?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
How long is the El Buco awning?
Say again? How long is what?
How long, like the storefront, right? Are the storefronts the same length from side to side? Is it approximately the
I'm
same
not sure.
size across, or is, because it could be the same depth, but if.
Do you have a picture of the El Buco?
Buco
There's
is a
a,
little narrower.
Wait.
I feel like it's not only less wide a facade, but it's also not as deep.
well,
an
so you,
awning.
oh, that one, go back, Will. If you would go back.
The sidewalk is
I
9
mean, you can
feet.
sort of see the Il Buco awning
Uh-huh.
and the Il Buco facade.
This is why
That's,
is
I
it-
mean, that, you're saying that's 6 feet.
That doesn't appear to be extended in the photograph.
Yeah, it
It
may
looks
not
like the
be-
arms are bent, I think.
Yeah, it may not be extended all the way. I mean, I don't know that we can govern the extension of the awning. Is that something we can do? I mean, if the sidewalk is 9.5 feet, the awning is 10 feet in the air, and the awning comes out 6 feet from the building, I would like it to be shorter, but depending on the sun or the day, they'll roll it in and out. I mean, if you use an awning, it's it's
variable.
dependent. Yes, thank you. It's variable depending on the sunshine.
I guess my point is if there is going to be use with tables and chairs outside,
Right.
you're going to really be occupying 6 feet of that 9-foot sidewalk.
Yeah.
They,
I thought I thought it was
they don't
already
have approval for
established.
the outdoor use.
I know they
on-
don't, but
Yeah, and
that-
it's a sidewalk. It's not their property, so they wouldn't be able to
Right.
get it on the public
And we
sidewalk. So
don't really have,
know what the need for, I'm just questioning is,
we don't have purview
what is
over
being
that
shaded
anyway.
then?
What's that?
What is the shade for?
Well, so we don't have purview over what is being shaded. I'm just saying
I'm
the
asking, I'm like,
extension of it.
what is the point of it if there's not tables on
It's
it?
draw attention.
That's,
It's a
That's what I'm saying.
it tells you that's the whole striped pizza Italian. It's dressing up the
marketing.
So
facade.
it could be a 3-foot deep awning. I'm
Yeah,
just
okay.
asking, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I think it could be a 3-foot
It
deep
could be a
awning.
4-foot deep awning.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a 6-foot deep awning is my point.
Okay,
How
so
about a 4-foot deep striped awning?
There you go. I feel like that would be less visually imposing.
and you
There's
think
a
the
compromise.
stripes? You're okay with the stripes? How many people are okay with the stripes?
I'm fine
One,
with the stripes,
two.
just not as broad and expansive stripes.
Man alive. Okay, I'm not okay with.
I
the
don't love
stripes.
the
It's
stripes,
Okay,
but-
4-1. You got it. I'm in the minority. I accept that. So, and what about whitewashing the brick?
Mm-mm.
Please raise your hand if you want to see the brick whitewashed. 1, 2, you're out. I'm out.
Could you
Okay. so
Pull the white
whitewashing-
paint.
Say again.
That was the
You-
whitewash. Yeah.
Whitewash is the whitewash. The
Yes.
painted white was also submitted.
No, we don't like either.
Okay, I'm just making sure we
Yeah,
took a vote on all the things that were
Oh,
presented.
okay.
Or
Yeah, I don't
whitewash.
think I recognized that painted white was also an option. Yeah, no, I wasn't looking to see the brick. Okay, so it looks like we're approving an awning of the width as submitted in this fabric striped.
I thought we were approving an awning, width.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
The width submitted. The depth seems to be in question. How many people approve a 6-foot depth awning? How many people want it to be shorter? Can you make a proposal?
I think what you proposed.
A 4-foot deep
Okay.
Striped awning.
striped
How do you feel
awning,
about 4 feet?
the width as proposed.
I think 4 feet would be
I mean,
better.
I could live with 4 feet, but I also kind of want to kind of inclined to give the owners what they want.
Yeah, I
Where I
mean,
stand.
starting a small business is tough enough. We should really be more cordial about
I
it.
also
I
think
don't
we
think you're
should think about the
prohibiting them from
consistency
starting
with
their
the building
business.
next door.
Yeah.
We took the consistency of the building next door. We're using the exact same manufacturer, exact same awning. If they were different dimensions, I don't think that's consistent.
I think
To
we're
that point,
beating
there's
this to
the
death.
rhythm of spacing between the buildings and says the historic commercial development is characterized by small scale individual buildings, many of which are separated from others by significant open space. Alteration, redevelopment, or new construction should enhance the characteristic of separate individual buildings. It should not, it should avoid the appearance of a commercial block. Open spaces between buildings should be retained. So I know that this is not, it's between the sidewalk and the front of the facade that you're talking about, right?
Right.
The width, but that is an open space.
Yeah. And I feel like, yeah.
I don't understand how we're fine approving Ilbuco's 6-foot overhang, but we're not fine approving this one. To me,
Well,
that
I
seems
think,
inconsistent.
yeah, I think that the striping, I think, to my mind, I would vote for a 4-foot striped awning, but not a 6-foot stripe, because that's just that much more striping. I think the striping's a mistake, but I'm outnumbered there. But I think some people are saying that that would minimize that color, the effect of that on if there was less of it. And I think that makes sense.
So it now seems we're at 4 feet of stripe or 6 feet solid. Is that correct?
No,
No.
no, stripe is happening, but
Okay.
do we want it at 4 feet or 6 feet? So can someone, where are we here with 4 feet and 6 feet? Do you guys want 4 feet?
I think a 4-foot striped awning would serve the purpose that
Can
you're
you
trying
get
to
behind the
achieve of the
4-foot striped awning?
traditional pizza place.
I'm not going to
And still keep the sidewalk
And still-
open.
yeah,
and
and
the
still-
space
all right.
open.
All right, so then, and we voted to whitewash the building or not whitewash the building?
No.
I can't remember. I'm losing track of
Not,
this
to
now.
not.
Okay, so no whitewashing, but we are approving a 4-foot
4-foot deep
deep striped awning, compatible with the fabric sample submitted. Okay,
Actually, I mean, I'm not comfortable. I think then I have the right to vote as I want. So just letting you know.
of course.
Right.
What are you voting?
You asked. And so I'm
Yeah, I'm making this proposal.
okay.
You know,
so
I'm just trying to like consolidate the numbers of
Okay.
options that we're dealing with here. So we have approved, the brick is staying, no whitewashing, but the board is in favor of an awning of the width submitted at a depth of 4 feet in this fabric sample. That's the motion.
I think it'll look great.
Okay, and is everybody, I'm trying to like talk this through before we make a solid motion and vote on it, because then we'll have to rescind it if we don't.
Okay, well, you
agree
know,
it doesn't
afterwards.
require unanimous approval.
Yeah.
So
No, it does not. No.
So let's vote.
Okay,
And just to be clear, also there was like the trim to be painted, right, in the maroon color as well. Is that?
No, no,
or
so-
is that
No, the
just
board requested that I
keeping-
take that out.
So it's just keeping what is there.
yes.
Okay.
On the east and west vertical fascia trim boards. That's what the board asked for.
okay.
That was
and
last meeting.
there's
The
no
roof, the
complication
soffit on the roof and the trim of the roof is still.
And there's no complication with the sign, right? The sign is all good. So,
Sign is installed, is fine.
okay,
Already
so,
approved.
do you want to make a motion, Diane? This is yours.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we approve this application with the understanding that the depth of the awning will not exceed, the depth of the striped awning will not exceed 4 feet. And the brick facade of the building will remain natural brick.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's one vote. I need a poll here.
Oh,
that's 3 out of 5, right?
Have you
Yeah,
voted in
Morgan.
favor?
I'm not voting in favor of this.
Yeah, I'm not voting in favor either. So are you voting in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so 3-2. Okay.
Thank you.
You're on. Thank you. Okay. Lots of people don't recognize how hard this is. Thank you, board
I
members.
think that'll achieve there.
Oh, it was a compromise of sorts, but, whatever. Okay, next up, business sign, Mary Jane's Real Estate, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-163-7-22.23. Is the applicant here, Mary Jane Taliasaki? Do not see her. Is an agent here to represent? Okay, we're not going to discuss that without the applicant, so we'll postpone that. May I have a motion to postpone that, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this is postponed. All righty, and now we're on to Dolce, the next one, Dolce and Gabbana,
Oh,
Suffolk
yeah.
County Tax Map number 300-75-1-29. After consultation with the building inspector, this application has been pulled administratively. So now we're moving on to,
What's that mean?
What's it
Debbie?
going to be?
it means that their application couldn't be processed as submitted because, there were problems with it.
Okay.
Black Mountain Capital, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-197-1-45. Esperanza, this is yours. Now, I don't know who Black Mountain, Care of Ocean
Ocean
Graphics. Is
Graphics.
someone here from Ocean Graphics?
Will?
Are you Will?
Yes.
Hi, Will. It's good to meet you in
You too.
person.
All right.
Okay,
I've only ever seen Will in Zoom.
same. Okay. All right, Esperanza, this is yours.
Yes. So Black Mountain Capital is requesting a single-sided sign. It's a 1-inch black acrylic pin mount lettering that says Black Mountain Capital affixed to the roof facade.
Fascia.
Thank you. With liner LED lighting, 2 fixtures to span over the signage. So it would be on the south facing facade. Did I say how big in total? 20 square feet. So 12 inches by 20 feet. Could we look at pictures, the renderings, Will, please? That's the building. And all the other signage has been removed that was existing
Okay.
on the property.
Okay, I was just going to ask that question.
Yeah, except for what's in the windows right now. So is it cut off? Ah. Okay.
Couldn't be more discreet.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
I think it's fine. In fact, I would say that the LED lighting is kind of obtrusive compared to the black lettering.
Is that what those two bars over the top of it is? Okay, so that doesn't that need some sort of administrative lighting?
We've
permit or
learned that,
something?
and I don't know if you know this, Will, I think this was communicated to you that it needs, you need an administrative lighting permit if we do approve the lighting.
Right.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the lighting? I think there's a spec sheet so we can understand.
Yeah, they're just
how it
a
works.
low profile linear unit. That's just like a rough rendering because it's difficult to kind of, on a flat surface like that, render such a fixture because it's just like a small, it's almost like a little box. I have the specs here.
Yeah,
It's it's like 5 inches deep, if that, by about 3 inches tall. So, and then it just sticks off the building. It's like a contemporary gooseneck light. It just faces down, and there's just not much to it.
so it's like an LED strip
Basically,
Hidden
in a housing that
recessed
just-
in.
right.
What do you think?
Do we look at the renderings? here?
Yeah, I think the renderings seem to me like that 3 inches looks a lot more pronounced than it.
I would prefer to see a continuous housing rather than
Oh, like broken into two
broken
strips.
into two.
That's a good point. Yeah.
What's the length of it? Nobody makes a 20-foot unit. That
Can
would
you
be-
put them together?
I mean, you can
might
do
look
it,
odd.
it's not the only light fixture on the market. I mean, you could do a custom housing.
Right, but we're also working within the budget of the client as well. I
That's
mean,
not
you're
our-
talking like 4 times the cost for a custom linear fixture like that.
You're asking us to prove it. I think if the word had maybe the business name had two names, it just, to me, that personally, I don't.
It's out of
choppy.
balance is
It's
what you
not-
mean. Yeah.
I mean, it's really no different than somebody who has 5 goosenecks over the signage or
Sure it is.
Well, it is.
It's
'cause
an
it's a
individual
line.
fixture,
Yeah.
5 individual fixtures. This is 2 linear fixtures. And yeah, I
Butt them up against each other.
That's what I,
That's
yeah,
what
that's what I
Fonda
suggested.
suggested.
All the way to the end of each of the sign.
Mhm.
then you run into lighting issues as far as coverage of the whole sign.
Mm.
You're going to have dark spots on the ends. Because I think those units are, I think they're 7.5 feet.
That's 15 feet. So you're 2.5 feet off either.
Right.
way. That's
what's the business?
the mortgage company.
So a mortgage company can't afford a custom fixture?
Is that what
I
you're
mean,
talking
I'm
about?
not sure. That's not really my determination. This is what was, proposed and what his budget is. Again, we're talking a huge, huge difference in price as far as going to a custom fixture like that. These are already expensive as they are.
These don't come in shorter, like 2-foot lengths or 5-foot lengths.
For
Because,
these, they
yeah.
do 3-foot ones, but then we might as well just do like a gooseneck light. And then you have a big, like a arm with a 12
No, but
inch
what if you
round.
did the two, you have 15 feet and then add a 3-foot, you're going to be 18 feet.
Right,
It doesn't have to go exactly to the end. It's going to glare down a little bit.
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's also the way they attach to the building. They all have, rounded mounting plates, like a junction box size. So then you're going to have all of that mess. And it's just going to be more going on behind the fixture too. And it's going to be a cedar facade. So
Right.
then-
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is there another solution as well? I'm just wondering.
So there's no way to include a 3-foot length in those two?
There is. It's just that they don't join together. They're all mounted separately.
You would
So you-
piece them together.
yeah. So I think it would look more like a hodgepodge mess than just 2 separate clean fixtures. Plus the cedar is going to age out and it's going to be gray. So the contrast of the black against the grayed out cedar is not going to be so bad either.
Well, see, I guess that's what bothers me is that they're black.
Right.
Yeah. And
They're not going to be like a high gloss black or anything like
No,
that. And
I
then-
know, but it's like, if they were underneath, which I know we can't do, it would be
Right.
like, oh, they're underlining but
Mhm.
on top, it just seems, I'd almost rather see 3 separate little,
Goosenecks.
smaller goosenecks
Yeah.
or something,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't object to the lettering, the graphics, just, yeah.
It's nice and clean.
Yeah, the lettering is fine.
Graphics
I
are
think we're
fine.
struggling
I
with
think
the
it's
lighting.
light.
Right.
So,
Can
I
you,
think that's much more in keeping with the whole presence of, I mean, it's been before us for a year or 2 years, I
yeah,
think.
just a-
And I think they want a clean, modern,
Exactly.
and I think that to put gooseneck lamps is not,
It's not
Clean
really
and modern.
right.
Do you want to ask them to
Well-
go explore other options and come back to us?
I would, but I would point out that from the beginning, this applicant was referring to the Serena and Lily building,
Right.
and that has goosenecks, and it looks perfectly clean and modern.
Right.
So I would argue that.
Okay, well then, why don't we approve the
Lettering.
lettering for the sign and then just ask the applicant to come back with
The
us a
only
different
other-
alternative for the lighting,
Sure.
which they needed administrative lighting permit for anyway. So
Regardless, yeah.
it's not like we can approve that tonight anyhow.
Right. The only other concern with the goosenecks was based on the way that building is, they will be taller
They'll
than the
protrude
facade,
above the upper plane. Yeah,
Correct.
I get it.
So
Okay.
that's something else to consider because they will come out and they go up. Otherwise, they don't sit and wash the
Yeah,
sign
I
the right way.
understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we can do for you, Will, tonight is just approve the sign and then ask you to go back and try again
Sure.
with the lighting.
Okay.
Okay?
Definitely.
You want to make a
Thank you.
motion?
Yes.
Esperanza?
Yes, so I make a motion to approve the button. Let's see, the new sign with 1-inch black acrylic pin mount lettering at a total of 20 square feet, 12 inches by 20 feet on the south facade of the building.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
No, okay, you're good to go with
All right.
the sign and
Thank
just
you.
come back to us with the lighting.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
Do have
Thank you.
anything else? No.
No, I don't think so. I think that's it.
Thank
All right. Okay, now we're on to fences, walls, gates and berms. John Rao and Kimberly Doughton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-39-2-31. Frank, this is yours. Are the applicants? Oh, is that Mr. Rao?
Yeah.
Hi, how are
How
you?
are you?
Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Frank.
so this is an application we've seen previously. The applicant is coming back with the revised proposal for the entry gate. So the applicant is seeking approval for a cedar fence, 5 foot 8 inch tall, which I believe is based on what was submitted, 6 feet off of grade, with a 4-inch clearance. The gate sits 23 feet from the street pavement. This is up in Clearwater on the street off of Kings Point Road, private residential street. My question, perhaps has to do with the fencing. The fence is not part of this application, but there is a 6-foot fence on either side of the gate in the front yard.
So there's a 4-foot metal chicken wire fence on the inside. The netting I put up because the deer were eating that level of the privet. So that was put up by me. The 4-foot fence was done. That's behind the privet. It's not 6 feet behind the privet.
Right. But in front of the privet facing on the street, there are 6-foot poles.
Yeah, that are holding up the netting that I put up. Correct.
Right. But that's a structure.
Considered a
That's
fence.
fence.
Yeah.
The fencing runs around the entire property, correct?
The 4-foot fence, correct? Yeah.
Well, it's 6 feet. Let's be clear. It's 6 feet in front of the privet, correct?
Yes, it's 6
Okay.
feet netting in front of the privet,
All
correct?
right.
Which is a structure, yes.
Okay. The survey submitted does not, which is on page 7, does not indicate fencing running around the property. So
Hmm.
it
Oh.
seems to me that the survey is out of date.
So when I asked them to do the survey for the gate, I wasn't concerned about the fencing. So they updated the survey.
Right.
And to put in the fence, I gave them all the dimensions. They actually just came back a couple of days ago while you were there because we have a front porch project going on. So they're redoing the entire survey. So I told them to put that officially in the whole thing on there.
Okay.
So it should be on the updated survey when I get it, but that's for the front porch project.
So I guess it's a question for the board is if we were to approve this, I mean, can we approve this given that the survey doesn't reflect the fencing around the property? Even if
Well,
we'll continue to have this discussion, I think, about the gate itself, but
I would say that on the first page of the application for the ARB, item 3 says that 4 copies of a current scaled survey prepared by a licensed surveyor. The principal building inspector defines a current survey as a survey that depicts what structures are on the property. So that 6-foot deer fencing in the front of the hedge that's currently on the property that's not shown on the survey means that the survey you submitted isn't current, unfortunately.
Okay. But I'm here for the gate, right? Not
Right.
the fence.
so we can discuss, but I just want to make clear that.
Okay. So I would need to apply
I'd
for
say it's
that.
incomplete, to be honest.
That it's essentially incomplete, though I do think the board would like to give some guidance
feedback
here.
on the gate, yeah.
Feedback on the gate and I think the fencing. Because if you're going to have 6-foot fencing in your front yard, you're going to have to submit an application for that. So if we could go to page, I keep looking at you, Julie, sorry. If we could please go to page, I think it's 6 of the application. So this is next page, please. So this is a depiction of the proposed gate. What is currently on site is an unfinished gate. So we should really be considering this for approval.
May I say something about that for the board? So I have a violation on the property because it was 7 feet, which was out of code. So in order to show compliance with both the board and the officers at East Hampton, I cut the top off of my gate. I had to leave certain structures in there because if I took them off, then I couldn't go back up if I obtained approval. So that is why, but that would be the finished product.
Right.
Why is it different colors?
No,
This is the ground. So
And why is the boards, some are yellow, some are not?
I think
No,
one is
they're all
just
yellow,
wider.
but the middle one, I mean, that's a design question I'm not sure what the design intent is, but 2/3 of the way up, you've got a board running through that's
Bigger.
atypical
Yeah.
to the
So the
boards.
the hinges, because they're 7-foot long gates, that's a 14-foot driveway. The hinges that are on the back, the straps have more material on a 2x4. So
Mhm.
this is
Okay.
a 2x4 with a 1x4 fascia. And these are 1x2s.
Okay.
Continues up and it gets finished. So the bottom is 1x4. What was the middle is 1x4 and now the top would be 1x4.
Okay. This has come up before in this application about this gate. Okay, so it was 7 feet before, and now in the deer fence, I see that you would cut that down to 6 feet. So we're still in. I just want to make it clear that even though you're seeking approval for the gate, like I do think the board should perhaps consider the gate and the fence, even though we can't approve it because it's incomplete. I think we should give you some guidance here. And the board should discuss this, how the entire property is fenced in. It's 6 feet all around. Even if it's like not a stockade fence, it's still a gate. Excuse me, it's still
A fence.
a fence. And the code, I don't want to go through that. We could discuss what you submitted here about what is code, what's, it's the ARB has to approve anything in the front yard above 4 feet. There are also rules about how much you can fence your property in.
Is that above 4 feet? Are the rules or?
4 feet,
Okay.
but, and that full section is 255, 1138. And I know that you had submitted a section of, well, paragraph 6, but I want to point out to you that you have to, section B of this, you need to comply with all of the requirements for fencing, one of them being Article 3, the area enclosed by the fence is less than 50% of the area of the parcel. So,
Oh, that's the deer exemption, the deer fencing exemption.
right. And it's has to be 50%, less than 50% of the property, 50% or less. And if you go to the property line, it could only be on 2 sides. And the other sides must be at least 20 feet off the property line. So there are many ways in which this 6-foot fence isn't complying with town code.
When you say property line, you're talking about what fronts the street?
No, all
No, your
around.
actual
All around.
property
So-
line.
So you'd have to bring
So
the
it means
fence in.
you can include 50% and you could
I'm
use
going
like
for the
2
5.
property lines,
Mhm.
but you can't go to the property line on 3 sides. You can only use 2, and that offset, because you're not going to just have 2 sides of a fence. You're going to enclose the whole thing. You have to pull the fence back at least 20 feet. Unless perhaps the building department
Behind the
considers something
facade.
like a non-conforming lot, something that's atypical or smaller, but there's some in which you could get relief, but you essentially can't go full lot to fence your property in.
Mhm.
So that's the issue. So if you're going to have approval for that, you have to submit an application for approval for the fence as well. But this application is for the gate, so I think it should be considered the gate.
So the
You wanna add something?
violation was for the gate, and I didn't know about the gate, obviously, which is why I'm in this mess, right? And I didn't know about the fencing either, but that wasn't part of the violation. I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, so I need to comply with that.
Just one caveat with that is that you could enclose the whole property with 4-foot fencing because that's not a
Right.
structure that requires a building permit. So you could, have 100% of the property enclosed with 4-foot fencing.
Yeah, well, I have a pool in the backyard, so I definitely need
understand
the
that.
4 in the back. The back's smaller than the front. Most of my property's in the front yard.
Mhm.
The netting, I have 4-foot fence in the front yard, so I could take down the netting and be in compliance. And then, go for an application,
Right.
depending if I can comply with it.
Right.
So should we talk about the gate?
You mentioned
There's
you
also
had a-
in the gate, in the height of the gate. I also just want, because I do think the fence around the gate, and I just want to read the part about the code, just so to remind everyone where I think this conversation should go. In terms of the presence in terms of berms, fences, and walls. The presence of such structures, and this can include gate 2, diminishes the visual attribute of the town by obscuring long vistas and views of natural man-made structures, the town's character. So I had said this before back in the review, that back when this came up a couple of months ago, that this is the only, as far as this is the only, this is this is the only gate and fence on your street that I can, an immediate neighborhood where you're going so close to the street, where you have a gate. You're the only one on the street that actually has a gate to the front of your driveway.
Right.
So it's not in keeping with your neighborhood, first of all, and it's also very close to the street.
So if I can respond, I've got gates on either side of my blocks. I've included a map. If you could go to the map. At some point, you got to be the first to do it. There's only 8 houses on my block.
No, that's,
I hate to
that's
say
actually
that's
all we're
not a
trying to
convincing
avoid.
argument.
But I am looking within the code. I can go for ARB approval for something greater than 4, less than 8. And so
6.
6, I'm sorry, up to 6.
Right.
And then beyond that with certain, parameters that I might not have. But I live in Clearwater Beach. That is my community. And these are 59 gates, most non-conforming. And I'm assuming some of them have ARB approval. I would imagine most of them do. But the majority of those gates, those 59 gates that I've surveyed, the majority of them are above the normal conforming amount. 49% of them are 4.5 to 6 feet in height, and 36% of them are 6.5 to 8 feet in height in Clearwater Beach. So that is my neighborhood. And that's what I consider to be my neighborhood within those confines of Clearwater Beach. So that's pretty compelling in terms for me.
First of all, it's not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're saying here the 59 gates you surveyed, of which 19 are less than 6.5 feet. So that's not half of it.
And those are probably the ones we approved.
Right. And we said this in the last review, which is just because someone has built it, it doesn't mean, and it's unfortunate for you as a homeowner because you're going through the right way of you're doing the right thing. And I realize you've come to us because the building department came to you with the inspector, but code enforcement, but just because someone else has someone that's non-conforming that doesn't follow the letter of the law, we can only approve something whether it conforms or not, or whether we give approval to it. It's like, I hate to use an analogy, but it's like trying to argue with a police officer who pulls you over for speeding that other people are speeding. But
yeah, a
do
closer
break the
analogy
rules.
would be to say, on most days I travel 30 miles an hour on average. This is not how these decisions are determined. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Frank, but I just feel like we need to move this along a little bit. And I understand your position. I really want to commend you for trying to do this the right way. And I'm sorry that you have run up against things that are, not comporting with your desires to improve your property. But this map that you've submitted is I understand why you have drawn the conclusions you have, but that does not compel us. The code compels us, and we have to use our judgment about what is keeping the open vistas and the character of the community. Submit that to the building department, and they can go have a field day with giving those people summonses too. But we can't. The idea that it could be the first on the block it's not a compelling argument for us, because what we're trying to do is limit this very thing. We're not trying to be a gated community. It's not a characteristic of our community to have gated, walled, enclosed features. I recognize the deer are a problem. I have them in my yard too. I have empathy for that, but there are other ways to deal with that. So right now I'd like to just get to the gate if we can, and give Mr. Rao some meaningful feedback so he can proceed. So did you have
Let's
anything
go
else?
back to the next page of the gate, or 2 pages forward. This is the design of the gate. In terms of previous one, I'm not inclined to approve the gate design that has sort of an inconsistent horizontal rail. I would like to see them all consistent. However you make that happen. So that's one thing. In terms of the height, I would be more comfortable with approving a 6-foot high gate if this weren't so close to the street. If something this close to the street, I would not approve something this high.
It's way too dense.
Yeah, it needs to be more transparent.
Go to the picture.
Is it yellow? Is it meant to be yellow? Is that just
No,
how
it's
it
just the
looks?
rendering.
Okay.
Timbers.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty transparent as you look through it.
So
Yeah.
what you just showed us then is not accurate.
Well, yellow and natural. I didn't know what color to
That's-
pick.
Well, it seems more transparent than the drawing you submitted.
Yes, right.
And this is actually not a bad fence at all.
But that 1x4 he's talking about at the top is going to be the stripe, and he's
Right.
going to add to it on top of
Right.
that, right?
Yeah, 3 more horizontal pieces, I guess, and 1 more top piece. So the bottom piece, that piece, and the top.
What
piece.
does it measure at now?
Yes,
Because I'm perfectly happy with that.
exactly.
Right. So
4 feet.
I measured, I've got the measure. So it's 4 feet 3 off of the grade. What's
Mhm.
that? The top of the horizontal members is 5'2".
So if I can just, so right now it's in a temporary state. I had to reverse the hinges.
Yeah.
So this would be 4 feet because the hinges are reversed to allow me to take it on and off. So it's up a few inches. So it should be down to 4 or 4.1. I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty much at 48 inches in that current state with those, without those.
Yeah. Well, without the supporting members, I think this looks great. I would support this.
I know my application is to get as close to 6 feet as possible.
Right, I understand, but I think you're getting feedback that because it's so
Or,
close to
yeah.
the road that, you know,
I think if you
you're now it's at 5'8", which is only 4 inches shorter than 6 feet.
Right, because
So
of the grade, above
I
grade.
understand, but all our measurements come from the,
Right.
from the grade. So that's, I think we would prefer to see something shorter. Is that what you're recommending?
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
either front something shorter, or if you wanted to move the gate, apply for moving the gate back 20 feet or so from the, I would say like 20 feet further from the road
That
for a
would- that would
6-foot
help.
gate. And in the entire, but that would mean you'd probably want to move your entire
Yeah.
edge. That's a lot more work. So that's up to you. Again, this is an incomplete application,
Yeah.
but I think we wanted to give you some guidance.
What is the setback for the gate?
Well, it has to be a minimum of 20 feet. It can't be in the
Right,
town's
20
right
feet.
of
So
way.
you are 23 feet from the pavement. So,
So what do you
so
gain
you
by
would
moving
meet
it
it
further
for
back?
4 feet.
Right. I understand that. You said that I can move it back to go up. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I personally would, I'm not saying that I would, but I'm saying I would be more inclined to be, I think it's more receptive to a taller gate if it weren't so close to the street. Yeah.
I understand. Just the last thought, and I understand you have to move on. The 59 gates within that property, probably about 50 of them, if not more, are not set further back than that and are higher than 4 feet. And I understand they haven't been probably approved, but that it's out there now. And until somebody enforces it, that's what the neighborhood looks like. Whether you're below, you're south of the highway, north of the highway,
Right. And
those
that-
gates are all over my community.
I understand, Mr. Al, but it's our job to maintain a standard that is dictated in the code. And it's a shame. I mean, it's ruining our community that people are doing that. That's how I look at it. We are really getting into, it's just becoming a gated community. That's not what, we're a rural area. We're rural, we're forested, we have farmlands, we have shorelines, and it's not meant to be boxed off and excluded from the actual view, the vistas of all these
Oh, I
places
agree.
is
I
what
agree.
makes our community what it is. So I understand that there are other likely illegal gates in your community, and it has given you the impression that you can have a taller gate, but you're getting feedback from this board now that's asking you to come back to us if you want it in this position with a shorter version of what you have, or if you want to try moving it back, as Frank is suggesting. I think, I can't speak for all the board members, but if you wanted to say tonight, can I leave this as it is at 4 feet? I would say absolutely, just do it. But if you want it higher than that, then you're gonna have to come back with us with a different scheme.
A different scheme, meaning further back, or a different height,
I
lower
think
than
s-
6?
I think, well, you are lower than 6, but you're only 4 inches lower than 6. And that's not a meaningful, it's not a meaningful diminishment in height. It's this much.
Okay.
So we're trying to imagine the vista. And when you shave off a couple of inches, that is obviously shorter, but it's not a meaningful diminishment in the height, so that the visual impact of this gate will be diminished, which
So,
is the goal.
I cut a 1 foot 4 inches off the original non-conforming gate. So that's gone. If I came back, are you saying that I could come back and look for a 5 foot gate?
Yeah.
Is that what you're implying?
Yes,
We often approve 5-foot gates.
Okay.
yes.
We don't approve 6-foot gates.
All right. So that's
Back when you have a current survey.
And you need a current survey. Okay, great. Well, then you'll submit that and we'll see you next time, and you'll deal with your fence stuff too.
all right. Thank
All
you.
right, great. Thanks. Okay. Okay, excuse me. The next application is Anna Marie Carcus. Yes. Well, as long as there's a representative here, we can proceed. Welcome. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-96-4-16.2. Frank, this is yours also.
Okay, this is a property in Springs. The applicant is seeking approval for, on the application, it says a 6-foot fence around the property. Can we start with the last page of the annotated survey? Sorry, God. I don't know why I keep doing that. There you go. Not the survey, but the photographs, the last page of the photographs. I marked on, just for clarity, so people are aware. So the color codes depict where the fences are on the property, and we can go through the photographs, but this is what I observed on the site of where there's fencing around the property. And I also want to point out, per the survey, there is a 10-foot easement on the street for the town of East Hampton for highway purposes. So the color code denotes the blue is, there's a 6-foot, this is as-built fencing. There's a 6-foot stockade plus on top of that, 2 feet 6 inches wire fence with metal supports. So it goes up to 8 foot 6 inches. That's the light blue. The pink is an 8-foot stockade fence on the rear yard. The green is a 6-foot stockade fence. The survey says, where the gray, I've noticed, if you can see, it says 4-foot stockade. That's what I observed. The survey says wire fence, but it's a stockade fence.
Oh, okay.
There's also,
The survey's incorrect because that was done.
there's a 4-foot, I'm calling it a dune fencing that sort of zigzags that's on the street. So let's go to the photographs and we can just kind of walk around the property. Let's go all the way back to page 1. Okay, so the mailbox is actually 25. It's the property to the left or to the southeast in the survey. So that's the street view. Next page. So I measured this existing fence to actually be 9 feet off the pavement. I don't know why maybe the survey is out of date. Maybe this wasn't accurately captured in the survey, but I am seeing this fence to be within the easement. Next page.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
That's the entrance to 27. There's some fencing behind that, which goes back to the house for the pool fence. That is what I'm calling the 4-foot dune fencing. It's right on the street.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the snow
Snow
fence.
fencing.
Yeah.
And then to the right of that, you can see the 4-foot high stockade fence. Keep going. This is back to
It's a
to
potpourri
showing
of fencing.
keep going. Also the detail. So that's the 6-foot stockade and then the 8-foot 6-inch wire mesh above it. Keep going. That's the rear facing towards the Lotus Avenue on the neighbor's driveway. Same fencing going around the rear lot line. Keep going. And that's the 8-foot stockade. There's a section of the rear fence, which is an 8-foot stockade fence.
Oh, dear. Okay.
So there's a lot here that's not conforming.
Right.
It's a putting green.
What's the application for?
The application,
Fence.
it just says 6-foot fence, 6-foot
Entire property.
entire
For
property.
approval of
So
existing.
the
fencing.
building department went in and found this in
I have
violation?
no idea how it came
Don't
from
know
us.
how it came here.
How did this come before us?
I actually don't know. All I really know is that Anna had an existing fence and she just replaced an existing fence and she didn't know
Yeah.
the code. She just told these guys to, because it was a mess. So she just was trying to improve the property. And she also wanted to maintain the security for the pool because there is a pool there. And so the fence was meant to protect whatever and whoever from the pool.
Right. Well, that's usually a 4-foot fence, but it's very hard to get 8-foot stockade fencing. You had to go out of your way to
Yeah.
get this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not readily available.
I don't know anything about that.
So we are allowed to approve fencing up to 6 feet, or deer fencing up to 8 feet. A pool fence needs to be 4 feet minimum. Generally speaking, it's hard. It's looked upon less favorably to have anything over 4 feet in the front yard. So we have a lot here. So the applicant, so you're asking for, or your client, we'll call her,
My mother.
is asking for approval of sort of the as-built fence. So I guess the first question to the board is, could there be could there be modifications to the existing fencing that we would be willing to approve? For example, taking down the 8'6" or the 2'6" extensions above the stockade to bring it down to 6 feet, at least on the rear and the side. What I would suggest is I would be comfortable with, I'm not comfortable with a 6-foot fence in the front yard. I would like to see this pulled back from the street. I would like to see a 4-foot fence. And on the side, I would prefer to see, given that there's a bit of a view from the neighbor, I would prefer to see a 4-foot fence on the side yard of the pool. I would be willing to approve even like a 2-foot extension of, because the wire above it is kind of invisible.
Is there a picture of that? Or you're just proposing that?
No, it's there. Maybe we could go back to another photo, the one where, keep going.
Which had the wire above the
Going now.
stockade.
Can you zoom in?
Okay.
there.
I
Can you
see.
zoom in? It's kind of hard to see, but there you go. Keep
Oh,
moving.
I see. There's netting there.
There's
It's not
netting
just
above
there,
it.
And there's wire. So the wire is at 8'6". We can't approve that.
The wire brings it up to 8'6".
Yeah,
So we can't approve that.
yeah, that's over 8 feet.
So, I mean, with similar
About the
applications,
deer, so-
anything in the front facade of the house is to be at 4 feet.
Mhm.
Anything
Yeah.
in the back has to be at 6 feet,
Right.
and she has to conform to that. Very
Right.
simple.
Right. I mean, my issue is with we're going to call it the southeast, which is what you're looking at. You would be splitting the fence between 6 feet, like halfway back, and 4 feet in the front. And I'm not comfortable bringing the 6 feet all the way to the street, but I think it would look strange to have the fence step up to some 4 feet to 6 feet. But I might be willing to approve that. We're not going to approve the 8-foot stockade fence. I'm willing to approve the 6-foot stockade running across the rear lot line. I don't have a problem with that, nor do I have a problem with it, the one that is perpendicular to the 8-foot stockade fence.
We've approved
Which-
the step up from 4 to 6 feet behind the front facade many times.
So the stockade fence then on the northern, like the north.
Let's go back to the last page of this PDF. Zoom out.
I would think this is north. I don't know, I can't tell. It's very fancy.
Okay.
Generally.
So I'm comfortable with a 6-foot stockade fence running across the rear property
Like
line.
where the green goes into the black, the blue
where
and the
Blue,
pink, the
the
blue and
long
the
leg
pink.
of the blue continuing into the pink being all 6 feet stockade. I'm
And
fine with that.
Okay,
Which would meet and I'm fine keeping the one on the upper part of the page, 6 feet stepping down to 4. I'm fine with that.
with the green and the black, you mean?
Yeah, because the green is 6 foot
Okay,
and the black is 4 foot. So it does step down at the house.
okay.
I'm comfortable with that. The street should be 4 feet. And if the owner wants to go 4 feet and then at the line of the pools, or actually the back of the pool terrace, the brick patio, bring it all the way back and then go up to 6 feet, I think that's fine.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
understand it either.
So we're looking at the pool,
Right.
and to the left of the pool is the brick terrace. So if you
Right.
continue the line of that to the fence, perhaps that's the point at which the pool fence steps up to 6 feet.
From around here.
Oh,
So just so I am clear, is it from here back?
Yeah, if you take a line from not the pool itself, but the pool, I mean,
Patio.
I'm just
Yep.
suggesting this, the
and
pool
then,
terrace, the line of that pool terrace, extend that down to the fence. Maybe I'd be comfortable with that being the point at which it steps up to 6 feet.
4 feet here, 6 feet. here.
yeah. Okay.
So similar to the other side, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so what about the front?
So the front would be essentially from where it steps, we talk about at reverse, where the fence wraps around the rear of the property, comes around the side, steps down to 4. I'm comfortable with it 4 feet carrying all around, as is the only issue. It seems to be within the easement.
But presently it's within the easement.
It's
We
within
can't
the
appro- We
easement.
can't approve that.
But if it's not in the easement, if it's 10 feet, I'm fine with that.
This is the easement? This is the easement.
So it would have to be pulled back
Right.
at
This is
least
not in the
12,
easement. There's no more here.
Pull back, sorry.
So this
It
is
would
the
have to be
fence
pulled back at
line.
least 10 feet from the pavement.
Okay.
And this is something you probably want to, I think you would want to check with the surveyor to make sure that I guess this is a question for the board, is do we need an updated survey? Well, this says wire fence, but
Yeah,
I
well,
think this is still, to me, this is
How old is this?
accurate enough.
it's relatively new. It says March 21st, 2022. It's stamped such.
Oh, it's brand new.
2021 update survey. That's received.
Oh,
This is
received. Ah,
6/28, 2021. I mean, it's not
It's not
a
that
year
old.
old.
Yeah, it's about a
Maybe the
year old.
surveyor just didn't pick it up, or someone, I doubt, it doesn't look like someone moved the fence.
It was just grandfathered in.
But what about that snow fencing?
That
Where is
snow
that?
fence.
Seems temporary. That can just be
Yeah.
removed.
Is that temporary? The one to the right of the driveway?
I am not sure. The zigzaggy one?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So we'd want that out.
that would have to be
Okay.
I
removed.
mean, it doesn't,
Only because is it in the
That
easement?
would be within the
it's in the
easement.
easement, and it's also not enclosing anything, right?
I think it's
So.
just impeding.
Yeah.
Edible.
Right.
Edible.
You know, I mean, yeah.
Edible
Keeping the
material.
deer out. Yeah,
Keeping the deer out. Yeah.
Okay.
So is that,
I'm not clear.
yeah.
it's a question for Kathy. Can we approve this as,
I don't know. I mean, I think, I'm not sure that the survey is
accurate? It says
accurate
wire
because it
fence, what-
doesn't show the snow fencing either, which seems to be within the easement from the pictures.
Right.
Which must
I'm
have
more
been-
concerned about the stockade fence around the pool. The easement, it's showing in survey not being in the easement,
Right.
but I measured it as being in the easement.
Because you
Oh,
measured
you
9 feet.
measured it. I see.
I measured it as
Okay.
9 feet, and it says here,
Okay.
10-foot wide easement to the town for highway purposes, and
Right.
it seems to be 10 feet. It's saying,
Right. Okay.
Um,
Well, it's a foot off. Then
well,
maybe
actually, the survey should also depict what is the 10 feet. Is it 10 feet within the property? Oh, so then actually,
It's from the edge of pavement or from the
Is it- or-
concrete curb?
so I measured it from so it's definitely more than 12 inch, more than a foot in then.
Yeah.
It's like 4 feet in. So-
into the easement. you
Into the
mean.
easement,
Oh.
because actually I was mistakenly saying that the easement is 10 feet from the pavement. It's not, it's the concrete curb. I measured it from the street pavement.
Oh, so the concrete curb is, I see, it's closer.
So it's more like,
So this is closer. than
it's
he
more
measured
like
from
6
here.
feet from the concrete curb.
It's very strange
And
that they
he-
would survey it.
So
correctly.
the stockade
It is
fence
strange.
around the
What is it?
pool
What else?
facing the street needs to be pulled back to be out of the easement.
Okay. And how many feet does it need to be pulled back?
It just needs to be out of the easement. So that's something that the surveyor would draw up.
Right.
That's on the facing the street.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it appears on the survey from 2021 as if it were inside the property
Right,
and
inside.
outside of the easement, but
It's not.
he measured and it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be
Okay.
Maybe they just didn't measure that.
really
part.
measure it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend is get the survey updated
Okay.
to where it's correct. And the survey is going to be the proposed, we'll need to show the proposed stockade fencing.
Okay.
And instead of it just saying stockade fence, have it call out 6-foot stockade fence, 4-foot stockade
Okay.
fence at the appropriate places.
Okay.
We'll send a letter also.
Yeah, we'll send you a follow-up letter with this information. I'm glad you're taking notes, but we'll detail all this for you.
And she'll be able to understand it from the.
One
what you
hopes.
said.
Yes. Yeah. So fun. Okay.
Oh, my God, I would have
You're on television.
fouled myself up.
Did you have any other questions for us?
No, thank you.
Okay. Are you good, Frank? That's good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right. Next up is 12 Eileen's Path, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-166, pardon me. 300-166-6-8.6. This is the applicant here, Plum Builders.
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Mr. Giaquinto.
Quinto, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, Frank, this is yours too.
Do you want to call out the tax map number?
I already did.
Okay. So this is 12 Eileen's Path off of
Skimhampton.
Skimhampton. This is a court. So it's, one could say it's like a dead end street. At the end of it, the applicant is seeking approval for a 5-foot gate. It's pretty straightforward. Let's go through some photographs just to familiarize some people here.
Is this the only house or no, there are other
No, there are other houses. This is just at the gate would be at the end of the street.
Okay.
Let's go through, we'll go through these photographs. So there's another house under construction to the left. So there are 2 driveways at the end of the street. There currently is no application for a gate on the house on the left. The proposed gate would be approximately where, I believe, that temporary fence is. At least its distance from the street, if not a little further back. Keep going. That's the view looking down the street. So the fence would be, or the gate would be sort of at the end of this, a little to the right. And just to familiarize people there, it's off of Skimhampton, this pretty rather private residential street, a court. There are currently no gates or even fences in the front yard of any of the neighbors that I observed. So, and then perhaps we can bring up the design of the proposed design. Perhaps it's another document. Let me see. Gate design JPEG. There we go. If we can, there you go. So that's the proposed design, 5 feet tall, 5 feet high. Pretty, would the applicant like to add anything to this?
Sure. The material that the gate would be made out of is Alaskan yellow cedar, which I brought a sample of. And this is the exact dimension of the material, 1.5 by 1.5 at 5 feet tall. And there would be an equal amount of space in between. So it'd be 1.5 with 1.5 space.
Right.
The frame is a steel frame with the mechanism would be in the ground. So the arms would be at the bottom of the steel frame, opening and closing the gate.
Mhm.
The
So it's an electric gate.
it's an electric gate,
Yeah.
and the ribs, which I call the ribs, the 1.5 ribs would just be fastened to the steel frame.
Right. What is extending below it in the middle there?
The middle is a mistake in my drawing.
Okay, it's fine.
The posts on the end go to the ground. In the middle, they don't.
Yeah.
It's just a 2-inch, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
2-inch tube that goes around.
So I mean, my view is I don't necessarily object to the design of the gate. I mean, I like that it's clear Alaskan yellow cedar. I think the drawing is actually inaccurate in terms of the spacing. It appears to not have as much spacing as the boards themselves, which is fine. If, though the drawing submitted doesn't actually, right? So you're saying 1.5 boards, 1.5 gap. It doesn't look like an 1.5 gap to me. It looks like less than 1.5 gap.
Yeah.
So it would be the number of boards. So
Yeah, the gaps are narrower than the
I mean, my
boards.
view of this is, given its prominence at the end of the street in the court, and no one else has a gate, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but no one else has, and it's visual. Okay, when you drive down, you're going to see the gate. When you drive onto this residential street, you see a gate at the end of the street. I'm not inclined to approve a 5-foot high gate. And there's no fencing around it. Maybe there will be at some point.
There won't be any
But-
fencing around the gate. It'll just be foliage.
So I'm not, I guess my stance is I'm not comfortable approving of going above 4 feet on this one.
So what are you keeping out? Cars? You're not keeping out anything else.
It's for privacy, correct?
Just privacy.
Yeah.
Cars.
Yeah. So that's my stance is I agree.
Do you
I would
agree?
not want to see this
I
above
do.
4 feet.
Okay, I do too.
So you can build as of right up to 4 feet. But
Same design, just 4 feet.
Yes.
yeah,
Okay, well,
Okay.
if you approve 4 feet, I'm good with that.
well, we don't have to.
You don't
It's
have to
at-
approve
So you
4
have as
feet.
a right to
You
go
have
up to
as
4
of
feet.
right. Right. It's anything above
Then
4
I don't
feet.
need an application at that.
No,
Nope, you're
as
done.
of right, you can build 4 feet. If it's anything above that, then you have to come to us for approval.
Got it.
Okay, so have a nice 4-foot gate.
Yeah, thanks.
That was easy.
Okay. Thank you.
All that weight.
Yeah, I know.
Gosh.
Well, what can you do? Okay, next up, Karen and John Campanella, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-66-1-8.
Sorry, so what are we calling that? Just, it's not a
It's
denial.
withdrawn.
It's just
It's
withdrawn.
withdrawn,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's no need for us to take action on that. Okay,
Right.
Chip, this is yours.
So this is an application to completely enclose a 1.6 acre residential lot with 8-foot deer fencing on the hillside across from Gurney's on Old Montauk Highway. The house sits on the crest of a dramatic hill. There's the front yard to the street is mostly woods. The backyard facing the water and the ocean has distant views and is almost completely cleared. It's lawn and an open field and drops down dramatically. There are a few deer fences. There are a few deer fences in this neighborhood enclosing properties and fewer driveway gates. The applicant also has requested a driveway gate. As no information on the proposed driveway gate has been supplied, that part of this application is incomplete. The applicant states the deer fencing have eaten shrubbery and destroyed plantings. Other than the planted driveway circle, which is a circle of shrubbery in front of the front door of the house, there is very little shrubbery on this property. The neighbor to the right does have some shrub borders, and they have fenced in those shrub borders with deer fencing, but just the shrub borders with 6-foot wire fencing. Neighbor at the back of lawn field has a 4-foot wire fence. Enclosing this open space with deer fencing would dramatically diminish a very pretty open vista. I think the applicant needs to sort of think about what they're doing and come up with a different plan in my mind. So this is from the top of the house looking down into this open vista, and beyond it to the left, you're looking over towards Gurney's. I don't see why you would want to enclose all this.
Well, a couple of things. So thank you. So we want to enclose it because it's eating those trees in the front. I brought some pictures so you can see what we've tried to protect the trees with. If I can just approach and show you.
It's a forest. I mean, it's just.
Well, no, these are trees of shrubbery that I planted. All kinds of bushes. The deer is basically destroying it.
Is this it?
originally We were gonna have the deer fence set up to, I know you can do it up to the front door, but then I was talking to the building department, just someone in the building department, and he said, Karen, that's not gonna affect what you have here. The other reason is I have 4 kids. And if you could just go back to the mic, because that way people can hear you. Thank you for giving us
So
the
this is in
picture.
the
but this
circle
is-
in the-
Yeah,
at
in
the
the circle.
driveway.
And then there's some other trees that are a
Right,
little
but most
further
of your
into the
shrubbery is in
circle.
this circle.
So basically what we want to do, plus I have 4 children that sit in the backyard a lot, and we have a nonverbal autistic nephew that the deer are actually, I have pictures of the deer actually coming up to the house. So it's pretty scary. We just want to basically put a deer fence up, that whatever you folks can approve for me, that so that we can enclose partial of it. As you can see back here, my neighbor has a retaining wall, then the fence. So that essentially covers that. My neighbor to the right has a tall fence, 8-foot fence, deer fence. That's on the right.
That's a shrub border that they've enclosed, but they haven't enclosed the entire property. They've
No, they
enclosed
haven't.
this.
I don't need to enclose the entire property, but. I
But your
certainly
application
want-
says you want to enclose the entire
I
property.
would, because that would prevent the deer from actually coming up the driveway to approach the circle, because the circle is about,
12, 15 feet.
yeah, something. from-
Why don't you just enclose the circle?
Well, if you can, I mean, if that's what you guys can approve, that would be fine, but I need to sort of take it maybe 10 feet further from the circle. It doesn't have to go to the street, but I need to kind of fence it in. Otherwise, it's not going to be any purpose of doing any of the fencing. I've had a couple of fencing professionals come to the house. In fact, we've talked about the deer fence, and they said, Karen, you'd be wasting money if you're not going to close it in up the driveway. It doesn't have to be to the street, but let's say 20, 30 feet up from the driveway, it's not going to serve any purpose. You're not going to prevent anything. So I'm a little bit also concerned, not only just for the plantings, but for safety. I mean, I have a nonverbal autistic nephew. My daughter is 13, sitting in the backyard. The deers are actually, I have pictures of the deers coming up while they're sitting on the lawn.
But they're not there to harm them.
Not
They're
gonna
they're
do
not
that.
hostile
I don't
animals, but yeah, I'm
But
trying
This
to,
is an amazing rolling field that you, why don't you take the approach your neighbor did and enclose your circle, which would, take a very small amount of fencing. But the idea of enclosing this sweeping vista is everything we don't believe in. I mean,
but we want to do plantings that aren't going to be eaten by.
and do what
Well,
your
then
neighbor
do-
did and enclose those plantings with fencing. But this is the top of a hill. I mean, is there a picture, Will, of the back going down towards the road that's all woods? There's a couple pictures. So that's the looking up from where we're just before it. Go back one, Will. So that's the circle in the driveway you're talking about, but I don't understand why you just don't fence in that circle.
Yeah. Can we fence in the property on the sides and to that circle?
Well, then you're going to need a gate.
Okay,
Would you provide us with no information on a gate?
because I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm just trying to do the deer fence.
I mean,
I'm trying to
I
just get to the
feel
deer
for you
fence.
that you want to protect
mean,
the
I'm-
shrubbery, but I think instead of coveting the whole property with deer fencing, you've got to pick a few spots that you want to fence.
Well,
in.
if I'm going to be planting trees along the left-hand side of my property, all the way back to the end, I'm
What
going to
kind of
want to
trees?
protect that.
Kind of.
Green giants
Oh.
or, shrubbery or something like that, some beautiful looking.
I don't think deer eat green
They
giants.
don't,
They
deer
don't.
don't
but
eat everything.
They're
They're not
ornamentals
badgers.
and they're just a
They-
wall.
I mean, this always comes up. We all live with a deer, and I'm not saying that. I don't think anyone here. Maybe I shouldn't speak for the rest of the board, but it's not an either or proposition of we can't fence it in or fence in the entire property. It seems to me Holly Street. I think on the Where's the vista? Is it?
It's
up
to the
at-
back. No, it's to the
left.
bottom. It's down here. It's here.
Okay.
Holly Street is a wooded street. There are very few deer fences on it. There are very few gates. And Holly Street is almost parallel to the 27, not the old Montauk Highway, but the newer.
Which direction is Gurney's on
Laurel.
the survey?
Gurney's is the bottom. This is Gurney's this way. The water's down.
Okay.
They're parallel to Laurel.
Yeah.
Can you do that 4 foot with the, the extension that's become popular now to keep so it's not as a visual impediment?
Where?
Are we asking also for approval for a deer fence, like a clear fence or a stockade fence?
No, not a
Deer
stockade, a
fencing.
deer fence.
It's for 8-foot deer fencing.
Okay.
The
8-foot
application
deer
reads to enclose the entire property.
Right, which we can't approve.
Which is not going to happen.
Right.
So I think you need to go back and rethink this
Right.
and pick.
Can you approve enclosing up in front of the circle?
Yes, but you're going to have gates if that's going to make any sense, unless you just enclose the little circle itself, what we're looking.
Well, no, I would probably do the fence this way.
Then you need a
And-
gate. I
You need
think
a
Yeah.
part of what we're saying is you have to rethink your design.
Okay.
And we can't approve anything tonight unless you just want to put a fence around the circle where the tree is. That is something we could probably approve.
Which you could do a 4 foot and that would kind of take care of it.
It would help. It
I
would
don't think
help.
they're going to jump into that circle. There's
Yeah,
not enough.
they-
So they
can-
wouldn't be able to reach the shrubs. So
Right, you
that
could
would,
put a 4-foot fence. You wouldn't even need our approval for that,
Mhm.
around that circle, and it'll protect your shrubbery. And then if you
So I'm able to put a fence, a 4-foot fence all around my property from the front door all the way back. Is it
You
4
are if
foot
you
or
want
5
to.
foot?
Yes.
4 feet.
4 feet all the way around my property. But if I want a 6-foot fence, I have to come and get approval from the
Correct.
board,
Anything over
correct?
4 feet.
If
Right.
it's in front of, if
Right.
it's in front of that.
Right. And then here's the thing about that. You can enclose it with your entire property with 4 feet, but if you go to 6 feet, you can only enclose 50% of your property.
Okay.
Well,
So that,
Chair,
yeah.
technically, they're allowed in the side and rear yard 6 foot as of right. So
okay, side and rear yard, but I'm just talking in terms of the
So the
entire
side and the
property
rear?
here. So,
they conform to the height limitations in the code for the side and the rear, which would be 6 foot as of right. They could have
Okay.
4 foot in the front and 6 foot on the side and the rear yard without ARB.
Okay.
approval.
okay,
So I
Okay.
can do 4 foot across
the front.
the front. Can I do that by the circle or do I have to do that by the front door?
Front means front lot line.
The front lot line, yeah.
Oh,
So it'd
mean-
be your choice where you would want to put it in the
Okay.
front.
Yeah,
You know, if it's
because
on
if
the
you start
very
from the
front
facade-
lot, then you have to get a gate. You
Right.
know, I think you'll just, whoever is helping you install the fence should be able to guide you a little bit with that.
So I can do 6 foot in the back,
On the side and rear
Side-
yards.
side and the
Yes.
rear of the yard,
Yes.
6 foot.
However, there is this rule that Kathy is talking about with the
Two sides.
50%.
So that's the exemption.
So I
for
can do
deer
the-
fencing.
So if you can just pull back the picture on the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so I probably wouldn't have to do it here, but I can do a 6-foot fence this way, all the way to the front, and a 6-foot fence all the way to the front of, almost to the front of the circle.
Well, the circle's
to see the
behind these
survey. Could we see the
Adirondack chairs.
survey?
Front, yeah, but.
You should go to the building department.
This is
and
hard
ask
for me to
them
figure
about-
till without seeing it on the survey,
Yeah,
talking to the survey. I don't know which directions we're
I
talking
think we
about.
should resubmit. I think that we need them to resubmit. I don't think we can.
Yeah, I think what you showed them where the circle is. That was helpful.
Yeah.
And the driveway is, and show them where the driveway is.
So I was thinking if I can just, when I said the whole property, it probably should have been just like from here to here so that I can.
Uh-huh.
Right.
close
May
it
I make
in.
a suggestion though? Why don't you just do it from the sort of the front facade of your house back rather than doing?
No, because
the
the circle is
circle
in
of
front of
shrub.
that.
I understand that. And we just gave you a solution for that because the only thing about enclosing the front of your property is then you're going to run into getting a gate, a driveway gate,
Right, right.
and then you're losing.
So
this-
you're suggesting that she put 4-foot fence around the circle and then just
Yeah,
begin
just
to
if you
fence
wanna
the yard
protect-
from the
Go up the
facade.
ramp.
And then,
Exactly.
okay.
And I think
Does
that
that make
always
sense?
leaves the whole vista of the
Yeah.
front yard open.
Mhm.
And then from
That's a good
either side
suggestion.
of your front facade of your home back, you can do your 6 feet.
Mhm. So from here back, I can do 6 feet.
Yeah, and
Here, I
even
could
David,
do
correct me if
4
I'm
feet
wrong, you
and
could
then
do
4
6 feet.
across the front.
Well, how far is the circle from the edge of the pavement?
That is, looks
It's got to be more than 50 feet.
Hundreds and
It's
hundreds.
really
of-
far.
Hundreds and hundreds
Oh.
of feet.
Yeah.
What would you say, John?
She could put in 6-foot fencing.
Okay.
You know, the rule for the new
Right.
fencing
She could do
legislation.
6-foot fencing there.
After you get
Okay, great.
6 feet, or sorry, 50 feet from the edge of the pavement, it's treated as the side yard, which entitles you to 6-foot fencing. So you could have 6-foot fencing in front of your house as of right if it's more than 50 feet setback from the edge of the pavement.
Okay, so 50 feet setback from here, I can do 6 feet,
Right.
However,
correct?
you can't enclose more than 50%
Right.
of your
So
lot,
I-
correct?
Then
You know, Frank, I think that there's a thing in the code that talks about deer fencing and 50% enclosure that allows you to bypass this board if the deer fencing that runs along 2 property lines and the property is not more than 50% enclosed.
Okay.
That's specific to that section about not needing ARB approval for deer foot fencing.
Okay.
Well, I'm just reading the code. Fences and walls, section 255, 1138, section B,
Just a
ARB,
moment, ma'am. Just a moment. Could you hold your comments for a moment, please?
ARB review and approval shall not be required for fences and corresponding gates that are in compliance with all of the requirements of this chapter and meet all of the following criteria. One of them being section 3, the area enclosed by the fence is less than 50% of the area of the parcel.
So she wouldn't have to come before us if she meets all that.
Right.
Okay.
That's
So
why
as
I'm
long as
saying-
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So as long as I'm not covering 50% of my property, if I did a 6-foot fence, let's say here in front of the circle, and it's not 50%, it's not more than 50% of this whole plot.
Yeah, but I think it
I'm
will
okay to do
be.
that.
You can go to the building department and bring your survey
Yeah.
and tell them where you want to
Right.
run the fence, and they will tell you if it meets their criteria, because the deer fencing permit is an administrative permit that they issue there. So
Okay, well, they sent me here to submit an
Well,
application.
you have
because
to-
you proposed to,
Because you wrote that you were enclosing the entire
Yeah.
property.
with 6-foot fencing.
Okay,
We only
that's-
go by what you tell us.
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at your application again, and that'll help inform where
so-
you're going to go next.
You're going to be a pro at this at the end.
as long as I'm not covering 50%, as long as I'm not covering more than 50% of my property, I'm okay with a 6-foot fence here to enclose it with the circle. As long
But
as
you're
it's
going to have to come back to us for the
Right.
gate.
Right.
Okay.
You're gonna have to
And
come
then
back
the
to
gate
us.
I'll have to get
And-
approved, so. at least
Right.
we can get
that
the
fencing
fence
has
up.
to be deer fencing too.
Right, I'm sorry?
The fencing, if you want to avail yourself of the exemption for the 50% enclosure, it has to be deer fencing. It can't be stockade fencing.
Right, it has to be
He
there.
knows that.
Right,
No,
okay.
I'm not thinking about it. I don't want to put stockade.
I
So-
really liked my solution and I think it's
I
a
thought
much
it was a
nicer
good-
one.
I
So
agree.
please consider it
yeah.
because
Say that again?
if you just started it from, again, I understand the shrubs in your circle, but you can kind of address that with how we suggested. And then if you just started, you can do 6 feet from the facade of your house back
Mhm.
and you're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
And then
gate.
just circle the.
You just
circle
need
the-
pedestrian
yeah,
gates,
Just
you know?
circle your
Then you're much.
fence around your shrub
Pedestrian
circle.
gates, yeah, but I can't fit a car in there. That's the.
No, you don't need it because
don't need
your
it.
driveway is in front of
It's
that.
unencumbered.
Yeah, but you see my parking to park my car is here.
No, no, okay.
Here we go.
Just-
We gotta move on. This is ridiculous.
You're doing it from here back.
Okay,
Your parking is here.
right.
You're doing.
Okay, from before the
here,
circle. Got it.
Here, back.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
I would
Okay.
confirm, I would go to the building department
Yeah,
counter,
that's a good
which is
suggestion.
open every day from 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Talk to
Okay.
the building inspector, tell them the issue that you came before us and said that this isn't going to work for us. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is Jody and Scott Markoff, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-7-20.2. Oh, this is Diane's.
It's postponed.
Postponed,
Postponed.
yeah.
Yay, postponed by the applicant. Thank you for reminding me. All right, an ag overlay, my lord. Took us a while to get here, didn't it? Okay, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-159-1-18.31. Chip, this is yours.
Are these Zachary
Oh, I'm
Clanahan?
sorry. I just wanted to acknowledge that the applicant is here.
Hi, Clark.
Hi.
Matthews. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi. good to
Clark,
meet
you're
you
the
too.
owner, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So I'm just going to review my quick visit to the property the other day. So this is an application for a new home off Long Lane and at the corner of Fieldview and Roberts. It is technically an ag overlay, but it is far from any fields or agricultural use. We approved a modern barn-style house in February 2021, and the applicant received a building permit thereafter for that house. The applicant has since switched architects, and they have slightly reimagined the house. The square footage has been reduced from 5,450 square feet to 5,049 square feet, or a drop of 401 square feet. Glazing has been reduced 300 square feet, or about 3.5%. Additional overhangs have been added and transoms reduced in height, and windows further recessed in the house. So the house essentially, big picture, remains similar to what we approved before with some design changes. As we approve the earlier structure, and the changes are all items that we generally favor, I see really no reason not to approve this revised application.
Okay, did you have anything you wanted to offer to the board?
I did have some prepared remarks, but if
Feel free to offer them.
This is the property on Fieldview right now. It's there's no field views here, even though it's Fieldview.
It was a cornfield 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah,
and then
so
when it
it's
was subdivided,
it's one of the last lots in this subdivision. It's on the corner. It's heavily wooded on the perimeters.
But it could be completely cleared at any time. Just
It will be cleared. They have a very sophisticated landscape plan. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a reserve on the west side of the property between Roberts Lane
I
and
remember,
the field.
yeah.
So there will be always a very dense
Evergreen
reserve
hedge
there.
or something. Yeah. I think the changes you made are actually positive. I mean, you've simplified the fenestration, you've simplified a lot of the overhangs. I mean,
That was certainly our intention. We wanted to.
why did you switch from what you had gone so far with?
We just felt we needed to conform it a little bit more, both the structure itself. So, for example, we reduced a lot of the glazing on the eastern facade.
Yeah.
We felt there was too much glazing there, which is really the largest source of the reduction. And then also some conforming changes to other homes in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Were sized down about how.
Can you step closer
Speak
to
up.
the microphone, please, and identify yourself for the record?
Mark's partner, Arch and Misra.
Okay.
The bedrooms were simplified as well.
It's not helping. You've
Sorry,
got to
the
get,
the
move the
bedrooms.
mic closer to you because
Okay.
The bedrooms
There we go.
were made smaller as well as some of the glazing changes that Clark mentioned, because the east side of the two-story structure wasn't necessarily speaking to the western side.
Yes.
We just felt
Yes.
like the western side was a lot prettier.
Yeah.
It's said differently. And huge kudos to the architectural team that's here today, Jeremy Delgado and Zachary Clenahan, who have really spent a lot of time with us and really fine-tuning this, and to your point, making changes that are ultimately all, in our view, positive as well.
You've clearly agonized over this project.
Can we take a look?
We
Can
have.
take a
We
look?
have.
at it?
take a look at the elevations, please. Because two of us are new to this, so.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful, I guess, for the benefit of the newer board members, for us to maybe share some details around the inspiration for the project at all? Or is that not time well spent? I know you guys have already spent a lot of time.
I think we're good on inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the renderings speak pretty clearly. Like if we didn't have renderings, then we would want some more clarity, but I think the
Right.
renderings are pretty straightforward.
Right.
If I
Okay,
could
so
speak
this
up
is
to
the
them.
north.
I'm Zach
elevation.
Clenahan.
Hi,
I'm glad
Zach.
you like where we're going with the renderings and the elevations. As you look at the east elevation, you can see when we first were brought on that it just felt like the project could be refined a bit, maybe up here a little more restful by changing some of the fenestration, reducing some of the glazing. That's really what we're showing there in that elevation. We've just brought it down, bringing a lot of the glazing more to the inner courtyards instead of on the exterior sides. And you'll see that throughout the elevations.
Do we have, I mean, is there like the before and after of this? Or are we just looking at the?
The top is the after.
Okay.
And the bottom is the before.
Yeah, they've-
So it
Hard to see
shows the
from here, so-
difference, yeah.
They've sent
Well,
very
here.
detailed before and afters. Yeah.
I would also add that the clients are going to use European glazing, triple glazed. It has a really high performance. It's a U rating of 0.15, which I was really surprised by.
Oh, look, he's brought you one.
And
Thank you.
they're going to use the Guardian SunGuard Ascend 70, which is a 37% reduction in nighttime glare, light reduction.
I think it
Can
looks-
you talk a little bit about the wall facing the street?
Sure, the connector.
No, not the
Oh, the-
connector
oh, the
piece.
stucco
There's
walls.
actually like a,
Sure.
it's not a, it's sort of a wall that has some breaks in it and it
Mhm.
breaks for the path coming up. Is this something that's come up on the review before?
Yes.
This was in the last design. We pretty much kept that.
It's like
as
a
it was.
landscape, it's a landscape wall, isn't it?
It's a landscape, it's a stucco wall, freestanding. It's just to serve as a screen between field view and the entry. But you'll see there is the opening in the center that it welcomes people in to the courtyard.
Right.
There are really more posts than walls because there's material breaks.
Right.
And the inspiration there was really driven by some of the masonry walls that you find in at barns. And our thought there was that we create a really beautiful sort of moment to sort of pause before you walk into the inner courtyard.
Right.
And the thought there is to have lots of, native vegetation to sort of penetrate through the breaks to sort of pull some of the interior courtyard out towards
Right.
the front of the facade. But that's about 58 feet from
Yes.
the road.
Robert.
It's well back from the street on the setbacks.
Are we talking about the wall?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think what I recall was we were all a little perplexed by it, weren't we?
yeah.
There were two walls in the last submission. If you recall, the very first submission that we had actually submitted in, I think it was January of 21, had a perimeter wall that actually sat on the property lines that were, I think, 6.5 or 7 feet tall, that were since removed. But the posts that are in the design today were in the plans that were approved last time around as well. I do have copies of the older submission if that's helpful.
Am I in the wrong
That's
page?
pretty much it. Yep.
And I would also direct to the next following rendering, because this is without any of the landscaping that we're proposing. But if you look at the next
Right.
rendering, you can see how
So-
it blends in.
Yeah. So this is my concern of it. And I like it with the landscaping, but my issue is the following. I'm just saying for the ARB, an owner, if this were to be like the landscape were to be neglected, or someone sells a house and they rip out the plants and they like it being stark, I'm not sure if the ARB, it's a tough thing because but I'm not sure the ARB would be as receptive to it. There's definitely having plantings in front of it does create this kind of nice layering. But when you remove that landscaping, which is so critical, we can't obviously dictate that the landscaping must be there. And so I think the character of this changes considerably. I'm not quite sure what to do about it. It's my first time reviewing this. So that would be my concern about it.
We're still talking about the wall.
Yeah, my discussion
I
is
agree.
about the wall.
It's part of the principal structure.
Yeah, I get it.
It's within those setbacks.
Right. But it's a bit harsh when there's no landscape there.
Right.
What would you recommend to soften it a bit?
I don't know. Landscape.
And it's 6 feet?
Well, I think it's going to look kind of sad if it's not 6 feet tall. I mean, it makes I can see, I've actually kind of thought, why don't people more often do this as a way to architecturally enclose their yard? Why does it always have to be this sort of stockade fence or a deer fence? Why can't there be an architectural solution for creating a courtyard? I'm not advocating that we do a Miesian courtyard, but there are architectural precedents for doing it. So I'm just kind of speaking through this. I think it's actually kind of a nice concept. That's my concern, is that I don't know where this leads it. It's I'm willing to approve it on the trust that this is going to be, someone's going to keep up the landscape to make, because the landscape is part of the
Ensure that the
architecture.
current clients will, they are
Well,
very
that-
conscious
and
of the
that's all we
landscaping.
can-
and
yeah,
using
Which
it.
was why I made the point of it being cleared, as it was a cornfield and you have every right to clear it completely again.
It's clearly the most sophisticated house in this neighborhood by a mile.
I think the house looks
Thanks.
great. I'm not pleased with the wall. You've heard us all evening talk about the vistas and not trying to box things in and close things off and so on. And I understand the functionality of it. I understand aesthetic to create a courtyard. I just,
But you're looking from Roberts Lane, which is connects,
no, I know where Robert's
This is
Lane
from
is.
Fieldview,
Yeah.
not.
This is from Fieldview?
Right.
The house faces Fieldview.
Correct.
What
Okay.
is the street? What is the street? It's the nature of it. Like how public is
Well,
the street?
Fieldview is a residential subdivision.
Yeah.
It makes a big arc and it's all pretty much, a couple of the houses have agricultural views and a lot of them are now wooded.
Mhm.
And then on the other side of this house, you're on Roberts Lane, which is a main street connecting Long Lane and Cedar Street, I guess.
Yes, Cedar Street.
Which is, so
Yeah, it's a through street between Long Lane and
Yeah.
Cedar Street.
Would it be, as just an idea, thinking out loud, I mean, this is, if I could, this was the previous approved
Okay.
design. But the big change that was made was that the gable that now protrudes the wall, that's prouder than the other, is in fact the garage gable, the single-story gable.
Okay.
And the double-story gable sits behind the wall. That was really the only change that was made with regards to the posts, not even the wall. But just as an idea, Frank, given you do like the, I guess, general concept, and I haven't talked to the broader team yet, but what if perhaps there were more breaks, which maybe soften some of the wider portions of like some of the wider posts? Would that perhaps be helpful? Like if you perhaps were to go back to the first picture, please. Yep, that one. So for example, if maybe there were more breaks along this one, or maybe if a portion of the wall was living, like maybe edge.
Yeah, I mean, I apologize that I'm not willing to right now, like give a yes or no to that answer. Again, I kind of do like that. At first, I was like, "Oh, like how's?" But then I've warmed up to it. But there again, it's the issues, and I do think maybe there are a couple of spots like near the garage where there are a couple of breaks where maybe it just seems a little severe.
The breaks are pretty big too. Sometimes renderings don't necessarily show it, but the the breaks themselves, I think, are
About 18 inches.
18 inches. So they're quite material, and
Yeah.
our hope is that the landscaping that we do inside sort of flows through,
Yeah.
and
Well, I like the proportion of the break. I think if you were to increase the size of the break, then it starts to look like freestanding slabs, not continuous.
I would
So-
point out it also contributes to that courtyard feel. And then there's a nice pathway on the larger gable to the left that is created that kind of like creates this curiosity as you go to the side yard. It has a nice feature, adds a nice feature to the yard. But I would be willing to explore opening up some of the bands a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything else looks great. I'm just having trouble with that wall, especially.
If we change the materiality of it, would that
Maybe
help?
that would help if it was something more transparent, or maybe not so
severe.
It's such a contrast to the rest of the building and the vegetation.
Well, one of the, so given we had approval the last time, we actually drew more inspiration from it to create more horizontal lines that are in stucco. So I don't want to move too far away from the stucco materiality. But the way we apply the stucco, we were hoping to sort of have more of a troweled look, so it feels a little bit more rural
texture. Yeah.
But
I mean, I also feel like it's kind of unfair that we're looking at this rendering because it is going to get hopefully.
Yeah.
I know your client's going to.
Well, one of the we submitted a couple different renderings, ones with vegetation and ones without, because we wanted to make sure that you guys saw sort of
we have
the non vegetated renders as well.
No, I mean, I've now warmed up to it because it's like, oh, here we are, another.
We definitely don't want it to start feeling uninviting and feel like, a closed off wall. That's certainly not our intent. So we're happy to go on record saying that, there will be beautiful landscaping that we hope to do with native vegetation in front.
That's what you're going to look at.
So hopefully that helps, but recognize and appreciate and respect your view as well.
Street. That's the street view.
That's just the street.
Yeah. Vegetated. Yeah. Okay.
We're
well,
arguing over, talking
Wait.
about a wall that you won't be able to see.
That's the street view or the neighbor yard?
It says actual view from Field View Lane with fully grown vegetation. So
Yeah,
it's,
that would be when it's fully vegetated.
right.
From field view with those,
Green Giants.
So field view
Hang on, let
on
me-
the
I
north
also-
side.
Sorry, I want to confirm what, is this from the street view?
So yes and no.
Okay.
If there were no plants on field view at all, that would be the view. And if we didn't landscape at our property at all, that would be the view.
But this is facing the street.
Facing the street, correct.
Yeah.
Field view has obviously two sides. The north side of field view has a reserve that runs the entire length of field view.
Mm-hmm.
The south side of field view that we would be on does not have a reserve. That said, every house on field view currently has green giants that sort of line the perimeter of the front yard. So our hope is to try and replicate that and just have it be a little bit continuous in keeping with sort of the neighborhood. I believe there was a presentation not too long ago that had really great images. I think Diane might have surveyed field view with those images because you guys were approving a fence, but it really did show field view's vegetation well. So the goal would be to try and replicate that, basically extend our neighbors' plantings onto our front yard. But in doing so, it would be, it would obviously close the front yard a bit.
so it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
It would be
Honestly, keeping it open would be
viewless.
the opposite of
Yeah.
what the rest of the street is.
Again, like
I'm not sure I
I'm
agree with
confident this is going to be planted out, but
I'm not sure I agree.
it's
with
just
that.
thinking, well,
Yeah,
10 years
yeah,
from
yeah.
now, what if they sell it and someone rips it out? It's just something we have to think about. So,
Say, but it's
I mean, I don't.
inconsistent.
What if we have to break the wall down if we're selling the house? Could that
Right.
be
I mean,
part of
anything can happen.
could we
I
take
mean-
the post down if we're selling it? Could that be
Again,
part
I
of-
do like it that it adds a horizontal element to it. I don't think it's necessarily walling off the house. And what I appreciate about this is that
Well, can
it's
you
not
put
like,
that-
here we go with another like
Please,
modern
it
barn
shows
spec
wall.
house.
Yeah.
This is something different and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So can we move on?
So, I mean, if you're offering to do some explorations of what perhaps that could be, I kind of like to see it. It's not saying I would reject this, but I would be willing. I would like
Could
to
it be
see.
a little shorter? It's 6 feet. Is
Yeah,
that
I mean,
Should it be
So I
5
believe
feet?
it's
could we not?
6.5. It's almost 7.
It's
But
7.
it was really
Oh,
proportionate with the
that's why. That's
try-
Future landscaping.
not only that, but with the, we tried so many different iterations of this wall. And honestly, even coming up with these breaks has probably taken us like
You know,
a
I
couple of
understand.
weeks. Clark and I have literally walked up to, random pillars that we find on
Right.
streets and like measured the height.
Right.
Because
In multiple countries.
But the problem with it being 6 feet is that the minute someone taller walks through, the significance of
Yeah.
those posts is just
Right.
they just don't feel right.
Frank understands that. I don't.
Yeah. No, it's about, the architect is making a point that architecture has to be convincing in how one experiences it. And it's a funny thing, this wall, because it has to be monumental, but it can't be, the architectural review board doesn't want to see it as too severe. So, I'm not saying monumental, but this is, as you said, you're right. It's not going to work as some low wall. It's kind of going to look kind of
It has to
silly.
stand up to the house.
Yeah, it has to proportionally work with it. It's there to make a statement, and I support it. So, it's just, yeah, I'd be open to seeing some. Again, I'm not rejecting it, but if you had some ideas of maybe increase the number of openings just by a few, or just make some explorations of that, I think it could help.
Or even softening the color a little bit. I know the white is I don't know. That would help, I think, if it was not so white.
I think it makes a nice relief against the landscape.
Yeah, I know you do. I don't
I like
agree.
the white.
That's okay.
Can we?
Reasonable people can
I mean,
disagree.
this is something that perhaps we could even evaluate in the field. Would the board be open to allowing us to proceed with the design? And then perhaps, Frank, if you wanted to work with us on field to sort of place the breaks.
But we don't, wait, we don't design buildings, no.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant, but more.
You mean approve this and then you're going to come back to the board? I think that's a bit of a, I wouldn't do that. It's a bit of a gamble.
I mean, it's nice of you to offer that, but I think it's too, I don't think we can get personally involved with that. You know, it's, I mean,
It's not
Frank's-
even that. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. Frank is the architect on this board, but that's not his job is to go and, you know, do field inspections with it. But don't apologize. I get that you're trying to work with us. So I understand the offer. All right. Well, did you have any other questions for the applicant, Esperanza? Or
No, I just think that, you know, we're discussing this wall, which I never was really a fully, I don't think supportive of, but then on top of it, you're going to screen it all out with green giants. And I disagree that field view is that corridor. So I don't know.
On the right it is, on the left it's not.
I would reconsider that also.
And that would be the type of landscaping we use there?
Well, yeah, I mean, we
Species.
don't have purview. I'm just thinking, you know, if you were really considering the place, and I understand it is not a field view, but it is really adjacent and it is within the agricultural overlay district, and you were responding to that. Screening the residents off with green giants is completely contrary to an open field.
Right.
Understood on that. As far as proposing new breaks, are there certain areas that you feel need the break over others, just so that we make sure our moves count, our blows count as we?
It's hard to say, you know.
Well, could I just, you know, I noticed that and you did point this out, that the wall now goes to the edge of to the left of the house. And that wasn't what was originally proposed. And I think that brings it into more prominence to me.
So it was the size of the overall posts hasn't changed. It's just they've been flipped. So if you look at the previously approved design,
I was looking at it.
If you look at the garage, the single story garage, the posts went in front of the garage, and then the 2-story barn sat proud of the post. Now it's just the reverse. So it's really just a mirror image of what was approved.
Probably actually a slight reduction in the linear feet of wall or post, because the 1-story structure is wider than the 2-story structure. So I think it's actually a reduction in total failure.
It's just, to me, I love an inner courtyard. I do. I was born in Venezuela. I'm used to those elements. I don't feel that they necessarily belong here. Yeah. And I think that was maybe my thought even when we first reviewed this, even if it was approved. And I can't recall whether I was, you know, part of that approval, but that's only what I would say, is to keep that in mind.
Why don't we, we're more than happy to, you know, evaluate further breaks and find ways to soften it. So
that'd be great.
Happy to, you know, look to
That'd
that.
be great.
Just the one item
that's
that we
our
would,
only.
yeah, the one item that we would really appreciate still keeping would be the materiality, just given we've gone quite far down the design path to change materiality at this point. But our goal is to make this feel, you know, based on colors that you would naturally see in the Hamptons, in East Hampton. So why don't we go back and think about how to soften the wall and perhaps bring more breaks?
Okay.
And I think that's the only element, really.
I think
right?
that's the only element. I think everything else you get high marks on. So I think it looks great. That's really my only problem with it. And it just plays to the whole issue of vista and, you know, being able to see these agricultural overlays, you know, even though I recognize
we'll definitely take that into consideration. Yeah. It's hard, you know, we're hoping to at least keep the corner open with really beautiful native trees. But 4 field view, 6 field view, 10 field view, they all have this line of linear trees. So we want to make sure that we respect that as well, and just find a way to soften, the whole approach.
Yeah. Do you drive down further lane at all these days? That's what I'm seeing here,
Right.
and wish that you would try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because you're building a beautiful home,
Yeah.
and then you're going to hide it.
Right.
No.
So,
So what would be the process, Kathleen and Frank, or Chip, on process?
Just
Right.
come back
Just
with
come
some
back with a new proposal at your earliest.
It's one of those things that's like, I feel like it needs to be charretted. So charrette is when,
Yes.
Yeah, I know what a charrette is.
okay, so it's like, I don't quite know how this is going to go when you explore. This may be,
They'd
in
like
fact,
to
the
invite you
best
to their
thing.
charrette.
Yeah. You're
This
welcome.
may be, and I don't want to be the only judge of this, but this may be the best outcome. But
Right.
one doesn't know until you explore the.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
the
So
other.
just come back to us with some other proposals for this. And
Clark was asking a question, just as an administrative matter, could we get approval for everything else except the wall at this
I
stage? Or
don't
how
know
does
if
that?
we can do that. Can we do that, David?
I mean, we're not talking about just a fence here. It's actually integral to the whole structure.
Yeah, I would say no, because I think it becomes a different animal, and that
Yeah.
in that like gabled piece, the extruded gable piece becomes, because then we're approving something that we may not like without that.
Mm.
So I
Yeah,
do think
that's a good point. Yeah, we won't know
Why don't
what
we
it
come
looks
back?
like.
No.
Yeah.
And there's not such a long lead time when you come back again.
Okay.
So if that,
yeah, I mean, you're just reworking the
Yeah.
the
We'll
try
try
to
to
come
get
up
you
with
on as
one or
quickly as
two
we
or
can.
more proposals, and we could all
yeah.
collectively.
And
Okay,
again,
that sounds
I'm not
great.
saying no to it. I'd be curious. I'd be interested in seeing some other explanation.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your willingness to work with
We
us.
really appreciate your guys' time. I know it's a huge undertaking, and we talk about it often, but we really appreciate what you guys.
No, well, thank you.
That's why
Thank
we
you
like
so
East Hampton,
much.
right? Yeah.
I wish everyone felt that way. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening. Okay, next up, Matthew Cantor. Sean Leonard, you poor dear.
Boy.
Been waiting here all this time. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-2-3.1. Esperanza, this is yours.
Yes. Okay. So,
Turn your volume off. We're getting echoes here. Sorry, I have to apologize. I have Kimberly, Mrs. Cantor had thought that you guys are still doing Zoom. So she was under that impression. So she couldn't make it, but she wanted to be here desperately. So I have her on FaceTime.
okay.
So and my battery is dying. So I hope we can make it through this.
Okay.
So I have the speaker up, and so she had her speakers on because she's trying to watch
Got
the
it.
YouTube.
Yeah.
So we're
Okay.
getting some feedback, and I was asking her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can
All
you
right.
hear us, Kimberly?
Yeah, I can hear you, and I lowered my volume, and Matt and I are here. So, yes,
All right.
All right.
Let's get started. I don't think this is going to take us too long.
No. So ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, so you had been before us for modification. There were a whole list of things that we were drawing up on the resolution with regard to the modification. And lo and behold, we spotted the generator in a location where it would not be compliant. So it is being relocated to just around the corner behind the storage shed, which then meets the setbacks at 15 feet from the south property line, 33 feet from the rear property line. And then if I'm not mistaken, you highlighted the garbage can storage. So is that a structure that you were looking to approve? Because it's not where it is on the survey.
filter that came in highlighted.
Would you like to?
I'm not privy to the garbage. Do you want to?
The inspector wanted us to move the garbage container. It has to be 8 feet from property line, and the only place it could go is there because 8 feet from property line is kind of in the middle of the driveway. So we moved it to the front area.
Right. So that's what's highlighted here. But when you say 8 feet from the property line, it's going 8 feet from the north property line at the front, in the front yard.
Actually, it's going to be more than 8 feet because there has to be room for the mowing.
So it's 15 feet as it says here.
It's more than 8 feet, but
Okay.
it had to be 8 feet.
Okay. Do you see it there? Okay. Yeah. And I did take pictures of, so you can see, it's just a 4 foot by 8 foot
Container.
garbage can, the storage shed and, or the garbage cans shed. And then this is the existing generator, and where it will be going is just around the bend, around the corner to behind this larger storage shed. Okay.
Works for me.
And it was cycling today. It was charming noise. That thing is noisy.
It's also going to be, when we turn a corner, we'll be sunk in the ground the way.
Like this?
Yes.
Okay. And then are you putting any further sort of walls or anything around it to shield it more, or?
There will be not walls, but I do know that they have all
vegetation.
Heavy vegetation. Yes, that'll be all around it.
Yeah.
The vegetation doesn't do anything to screen.
That's what I'm wondering.
Some sound attenuation. It might be in your best interest if it's right outside of, a residential room to find some, you don't have to do this. It's just a suggestion that sound attenuation might be in your best interest.
But as long as that sound attenuation is not more than
4 feet,
4 feet in height, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because the machine itself is roughly 4 feet out of the ground when set into the.
That should work.
Right?
Yes.
That would work.
These things are so loud.
It was so loud.
Incredibly loud.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see the point almost of it sound attenuation. I mean, I get it.
You
but
don't see the point.
I mean, not saying I don't see the point, but the amount you're attenuating versus the actual noise output is so, I don't want the board to be under an illusion that this is going to have a great reduction in these. These are really loud.
We can't require that anyway. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
It's just a suggestion. We shouldn't even be really discussing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yep. I think, so
Okay.
I make a motion to approve what am I approving? The modification.
Yep.
As submitted.
And may I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good to go.
Aye, aye.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Thanks for your
Sorry I had to wait
patience.
so long for
Yeah.
that
Okay,
little
somebody
bit
has
of
to do
business.
Oh, gosh. You were.
Okay. All right, so now we're on to issuance of certificates of occupancy. Laura Lee Wattenberg, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-61-3-36. Now, this one was mine, and I found that the approval was for 6 foot high gates, and the gate itself was 6 foot high, but the posts are 6.5 feet. The width of they measured the gate and not the posts. So you see those black posts on either side, they're 6.5 feet. So I don't see how we can approve that. I think that we should just get them to take those caps off and maybe put it down or something. I mean, it's made of wood. They should be able to manage
It's just this, it's like a pedestrian, it's just the pedestrian
There are
gate?
two of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are two of them. One is on the driveway and one is on the road. This is the one that's on the driveway. And then there's another picture, if you could just advance, please, Will. And that's not the best picture, but that's the one that's on the road. That's a wider one. And the posts are not as visible because of the vegetation there.
But they're higher.
But they're higher. Yeah, they're 6
inches.
That post there is 81 inches, the westerly post. And then the east one is 79.5. So they're
inches. That's a lot.
6 foot nine.
Okay,
Yes.
they got to cut the
No, I'm
posts.
saying they're well over 6.5 feet, all of them. They're at 6.5 or over.
Yeah, so they
6.5
gotta
feet.
fix
So they
that.
got to bring that down. So I'm afraid we can't approve that certificate of occupancy until that matter is attended to. So we'll send a follow-up letter to that effect to Ms. Wilshire, who is the agent for the applicant, Mr. Lee Wattenberg. I don't know if it's man or woman. Okay. So the next one is Kenneth Grant, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-196-1-8.1. And Esperanza, that's yours. Did you need something, Sean?
Yeah.
Just right up here. So now it's final. We have to get a building permit for the generator, and then we have a generator move, and then she can move on for her CFO.
Yes.
Or we come back to you.
I think once.
Yes.
Then you come back to us.
Right.
Yes.
And then we'll trigger the building inspector once we take a look at it.
So the issue with the CO first is because the generator will be a separate.
No, because it's in that,
I mean-
ag overlay.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, but we already had we thought we were heading towards this direction of the issuance of the CO until we discovered this.
Yes.
Right.
That's why I was just asking, do we go through that whole process?
I don't know. Do they have to reapply?
No,
I don't think you do.
we need the resolution, but it has to include, it will include the generator.
And then, one second, I have, but once everything is all done and moved, let me know, because I already have the signed CO form.
Oh, okay.
And then we can go ahead and put that on the agenda.
And we'll vote on the, yeah.
Yes.
Then
It's a
we'll
little
inspect-
quick,
yeah, it's a
little
little
quicker.
more, yeah, it
More
should be a little
quick.
faster.
It comes back.
And after that, you have to contact the building department to come out and do another
To
inspection.
do their final
And
inspection.
The ARB issues the CO, but then the certificate of occupancy that goes on the town files is the result of the building department. So
Right.
after you finish with us, you still need to contact the building department to arrange for an inspection of the property.
But it's a separate permit. Right?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
so
It's a separate permit. So I don't know why.
Okay, I would like to recommend that, Sean, that maybe you give
Yeah.
Julie and Eric a call in the morning, because I don't think we really know.
No, no.
Thank you, though.
It appears that we're not.
Right, we're not entirely sure ourselves, so maybe call the planning department tomorrow and explain your situation. Seems fair to me that you wouldn't have to have a whole nother permit application, because this is just a remedy, but I don't know. I don't make those rules, so. Okay, off you go.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right,
Right,
thank you.
okay.
You too.
Right, Esperanza, I already read this in, so
Yes.
we're on Wayne-Scott Hollow Road.
Yes, and so this is a certificate of occupancy pertaining to the resolution from March 24th of this year, 2022, where we approved the 10-foot black vinyl mesh tennis court fence and proposed 5-foot green giant arborvitae trees to screen the south side of the court. And so I did go and visit the property, and the arborvitaes, originally they had proposed them to be sort of right, I think, more close to the tennis court fencing. But I guess in discussion with Regina, we had agreed that it was fine to really screen that south side, that adjacent to the neighbor property. Yeah. And those are there. There's a little row of them, and I took pictures. But I just had questions about this whole property.
Right. Well, did you get a chance to look this up for us?
Yeah, I did. I found the covenants and restrictions. The one thing that stuck out to me in those covenants and restrictions is there's a section like of them that specifies no structure. This is like the language specifically. No structure shall be used or erected or altered, and no part of the premises shall be used for any purpose except as a dwelling house for one family, with or without a private garage. Which makes me wonder, like,
they shouldn't even have a pool
or a tennis court. Yeah, that was the one part that stuck
So
out.
how did this one get by us?
Nobody
Okay.
looked at the covenants and
Okay.
restrictions.
All right.
But it seems like there's a ZBA allowing the tennis court.
There was,
But
yes.
I think that was.
But were
a
they aware of
variance
the
from the
covenants and
side yard?
restrictions?
Yeah, but I.
Yes,
That was for variance from the side yard, so. All right, well, what do we do here?
Yeah.
I don't see an obvious legal, so
I mean, how can we approve something that goes?
Right,
goes
because,
against the
and
covenants
I'll explain why this was flagged in my review, was because the property card specifically in August of 2021 legalized the tennis court per ZBA decision dated 8/2/17 and all applicable codes. But then it says no fence allowed around tennis court also. So that then just started
So we shouldn't have
creating
approved the
issues
fence.
for me. And I don't know if that was no fence allowed until it has ARB approval, if that's just a cryptic building department.
Or no fence allowed at all.
Or no fence allowed at all.
What year was that?
This last year.
Oh, okay.
How
So
can
we
you have a
can
tennis court and not have a fence around it?
Or a pool. I mean, the
Doesn't
pools-
make sense.
Yeah. Okay,
So I'm not quite sure what to do.
all right. I don't know what to do either.
Code public safety overrides anything like a pool fence. You know, if you approve a pool, you have to approve the Yeah,
It's required to have a
it's
fence.
understood that you're going to have a pool fence.
Right.
So you can't tell the owner they
But,
can have a
but we
pool
have
or
a
not.
fence around the tennis court now where no fences are permitted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's
So
the
the
case.
definition of playing court in the town code is a structure or part thereof which is designed or used for playing sports and consists of playing surface of 375 square feet or more. All associated netting, fencing, backstops, or other improvements shall be considered part of the playing court.
Okay.
Tennis courts, handball courts, and other similar facilities shall be deemed included in this definition.
Okay.
So I would say that that annotation on the property card probably means that there's no like secondary fencing.
Additional fencing
like
besides
the
that
fence
around.
in
Okay.
the fenced-in tennis court.
Okay. All right. So that's a right mess. So I would assume that it would seem that we should be approving this then, would you? Would that
With
be-
the, yeah, I mean, it complies with the resolution.
Right. Okay.
Then, I'm happy to, go forward with that. I also just pointed out want to point out that there is work being done to the exterior of this residence also. And that I think should have come before us for review
Okay.
Because why?
because they're swapping out windows.
Not us, the building department. Us because of the ag overlay or?
Yeah,
Oh.
ag overlay. That's the whole thing. It's an ag overlay.
Yeah,
And
otherwise
just-
we wouldn't
otherwise
have
we
to
wouldn't
review it.
care. Yeah. Okay, well,
So
let's
let's go ahead with this.
Yeah. You want to make a motion, please?
Yes. So I make a motion to instruct staff to inform the building department that the applicant has satisfied the conditions of the ARB approval and a certificate of occupancy can be issued for the tennis court.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. So that's passed and carried. All right. Next one is Kevin Sims and Matt Lucas. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-92-11.4. Chip, this is yours.
Yeah, so this is an application to obtain a C of O for a 2.5 acre property with 8-foot deer fencing and 2 oversized pedestrian gates on either side of the front facade of the house. We approved the 8-foot fencing and we approved 2 90-inch pedestrian gates in May 2020. The fencing is behind the front facade of the house and encloses most of the backyard around the pool. A similar 4-foot high fence backs up to the deer fencing, so it's essentially one, but I don't see that as an issue. The gate to the right of the house is 6 feet tall with a frame that is 90 inches tall, which is what we approved. The gate to the left of the house is 6 feet tall with a frame that is 96 inches tall, which is 6 inches over what we approved. I don't know whether, and I was the original member on this, I don't know whether I mismeasured or that they have rejiggered the frame after in the 2 years so that's the gate that's correct. That frame is 90 inches high with a 72-inch gate. Well, let's see the other side. That gate is 72 inches high with a 96-inch frame.
Oh, okay. Oh, goodness.
So, but what's interesting is the 8-foot deer fencing butts up to the top of the frame.
Oh.
Exactly. So I don't know. It could have been an oversight on my part,
Did
or
you
they,
measure the deer fencing too in this strip?
yeah, it's 8
Okay.
feet.
Okay.
I mean, or I don't usually mismeasure.
I understand,
They
but-
may have reconfigured
Uh-huh.
the frame of this gate, but as it's the same height as the deer fencing, it's 6 inches over what it's supposed to be. I'm kind of okay with it.
Okay. So you're going to make that,
Yeah. So
motion?
I make a motion to approve the application for a request for a certificate of occupancy and instruct staff to notify the building department that this is ready for a C of O.
I have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's passed and carried. All right, we're on to resolutions. We will now be signing the resolutions for 22 Association Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300 dash 200. Sorry, I'm going to give those to you guys to start down there. I'll start again. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-3-40.3. Also Astro's Pizza, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-171-2-5. Shagwan Boat Club and Marina, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-77-5-1.3. Judith Simmons and Arthur Megan, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-54-2-6. South Essex Corner, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-1-13.2. Sunset Harbor, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-75-1-28.5. And Montauk Properties LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-27-3-14. Okay, so once those are all signed, we'll have completed our responsibilities. You can take
A
down.
lot of these. There are
Yeah,
a lot tonight.
there are a lot
Well, that's
tonight.
good, actually. We're actually
Getting
accomplishing
things
something.
done. Yes, exactly.
We're done.
We should do these at the beginning of the meeting. So anticlimactic to do them at the end.
And we're sitting around. Usually we could do it easily.
Yeah, we can. I think I'll switch it because. Yeah, it's okay. We'll talk about it later. All right, may I have a motion to close the meeting, please?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Thank you, staff, our fantastic team. I appreciate everybody. And we're closed. Everybody have a good weekend.